event in Florida, where 14,000 new positive test results were reported on Friday of last week. The 7-day average in Florida is near 12,000 compared to Wisconsin's 800 positive coronavirus tests. The RNC is planning on taking the temperature of attendees and setting up hand sanitizing stations. Highs today in the upper 70s with scattered thunderstorms possible in the late afternoon and evening. Overnight lows in the mid-60s. Wednesday highs around 80 degrees with partly cloudy skies. Thursday highs again near 80 with partly cloudy skies. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Taco Tuesday to you, my little buddy.
Hey, Crudy, happy Taco Tuesday. I know it must be Taco Tuesday because you came to town and got some tacos.
Are you noting a pattern?
Yeah, you've been getting a little bigger over these last COVID days, man. The COVID-19, man, how you pushing it? It's like being a freshman again.
Yeah. Welcome to you, too. You're still a little puffy.
Come on. I'm a little salt last night.
Okay, we got a fine guest coming later. Ed Fallone, Associate Professor of Law, Marquette University Law School. Ed's going to help us unpack some of the headlines of the day. Trump administration, Trump, issued an executive order. The undocumented are to not be counted in the U.S. Census. And we'll talk with Ed about what the ramifications of this executive order could be. But, Dom, I want to talk about this sort of precursor to fascism, this state we find ourselves in.
Precursor?
You know, I don't know that we're going to thrive, per se, during fascism here in the United States. That's not so much our thing. We're not going to do well under fascism.
Au contraire, mon frere, I think we do great under fascism. I mean, look at the Revolutionary War. We beat back the monarchy. I mean, that's fascism.
The royal we, the
royal
American
we, yes.
we. But I'm talking about you and I specifically.
like right here.
Yeah, these guys.
This
guy.
On Brady Street in Milwaukee at the DNC.
I'll speak for myself. I will not flourish, to my full capabilities under freaking fascism in America.
Come on, man. You'd be surprised at how well you might work under the pressure that would sure to come under a more fascist America. Because what's going on right now, Crudy, what we have seen, it's already here.
Righty Whitey Talk Radio. I'm here in Milwaukee, as you know, but for the sake of the audience, they don't see me. I'm here in Milwaukee today. And I was driving around and I was checking all the talk radio stations. And Scafidi and his crew over there, they're doing some sort of virtual baseball. Baseball's back on Friday. I am also excited about baseball. You less so, I realize.
Come on, man. It's not even a real season. Does it even matter? I mean, if the Brewers win the World Series, it's going to be an asterisk by it anyway.
It's going to matter. I got a fantasy baseball draft tonight. It matters, and it's going to matter, and it's going to pay out, and the World Series is going to be the same.
It will. Well, perhaps for the fantasy players, it will be some action, which I'm sure you look forward to. And I look forward to seeing some baseball and sports also. But come on, I mean, it's all asterisk.
We got a side putt in case it gets canceled.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, baseball is not exactly the pressing concern per se. That's what one of the stations.
One of the stations, yeah, more of a sportsy station.
The station that covers the baseball. The other station, Dan O'Donnell,
your buddy, your drinking buddy, your Wisconsin Broadcasters Association drinking buddy.
Absolutely. And that's true. And I also sat on a panel with him and drank some beers that night as well. You remember Vicky and Earl?
Yeah.
And they had to shut it down that night. But that, I also don't want to digress about that evening, Dom. But I was truly, like, literally troubled by Dan O'Donnell this morning. I mean, it was bad.
Oh, why? What? I mean, more bad?
If you believe that the ordering of federal troops in Portland is a precursor, is really Trump's
Trial run?
sure, and it's nearly transparent. I mean, Trump's talking about, Democratic mayors. He's not even trying to hide the fact that this is purely just an extension of his political campaign. It's like his Hail Mary. It's the only thing he's got left in the arsenal. So his bright idea, I'm going to go incite violence on the streets with federal troops, and whether or not local mayors or governors want those troops there, well, somehow I can justify it. It's within my power. So I'm going to jam some troops in the streets. And if there wasn't violence, there will be soon, because they got a big old lightning rod now to direct their anger towards the federal agents in paramilitary gear, and very little else. No other markings, no insignia, but just, representative of the people per se, and Trump's law and order presidency, or at least how he'd like to portray it to the American people right before this re-election.
Or at least portray it to the 30% of his base that actually believes what he's saying.
Well, he's also portraying Joe Biden as a defund the police guy, and we know that Joe Biden is not. But here's the troubling part. Dan O'Donnell, back to Righty Whitey Talk Radio. I'm thinking to myself, man, this must be what it was like when the Nazis took over in some way, shape, or form. They didn't do it on their own. You could not influence that many people in Germany or anywhere else in this world, not without some assistance from the media, without some propaganda outlet saying, yeah, those troops in the street, that's absolutely what we need in these times. And that guy today was Dan O'Donnell.
He was all down for it.
Oh, all down for it. And this guy's a lawyer. I'm not saying he's any sort of constitutional scholar, but unlike you or I, Dom, I know you got your MBA, but that's not the same as a law degree. He should know better.
Come on, man. Will's got law degrees. That's got nothing to do with it. The only thing that guys like O'Donnell will believe in is that whether it's their guide, then it's good. If it's your guide, then it's bad. That's it. Listen, that's
I'm not
it.
even
Don't
clear.
look for any consistency, because you know damn well if this were Barack Obama sending the troops in on the Bundy crew, they'd all be freaking out right now.
It is ironic to me, the very same crew that would talk about the tyrannical governor who might order you to be safer at home, or God forbid we ever have a mask mandate, man, they're ready to go shooting people in the streets over a mask mandate. But they're all kosher with federal agents without insignia on the streets, just scooping people up and throwing them into vans. That's how we operate now.
Into
secret
unmarked
police.
Now, see, it's very distressing, certainly. And would you go along willingly into something like that? How do you know? I mean, how do you know there's not a couple of right-wing yahoos dressed up like it? Because we've seen a few of those folks coming out recently in a van, coming out with something that says police, that says get in the van. Would you follow that order? I'm not clear that I would.
Yeah, nor I. I barely arrest by the actual police, and you know that. I'm not an easy arrest. I didn't arrest easily when they took me into custody at the Wisconsin State Capitol, and you were there, perhaps not when I was being arrested. You arrested more like a little bitch, but
unconstitutionally, I would add.
Took that fascism and good stride. But Dom, how do we get from here to there? What's the worst that could happen?
I mean, Nazis. I mean, that is quite a leap forward, Michael.
Really? I mean, post-World War I in Germany, do you think they would have ever anticipated their country devolving into fascism and Nazism? How do you get from here to there? Well, it helps when you got a propaganda media outlet, and perhaps 81 others like it, excepting the one playing some random Brewer highlights, when you've got a media outlet, and I'm not convinced at all. I've drank with Dan O'Donnell, as you noted. In my every impression of Dan O'Donnell, like it is often with Ron Johnson when he's off the air, is they don't even like Trump. They don't even like the man. They wouldn't trust him with their wives or their daughters.
Yeah, but they'll play the role when they are called to do it like a good soldier.
But what sort of higher calling calls one to support fascism? I mean,
It's only fascism when it's the other guy. See, they justify. I don't want to. Did Mr. O'Donnell clarify what specifically he supported Trump's efforts in doing?
Completely legal because apparently there's been some property damage at a federal courthouse, and it's all justified because it's a federal courthouse. But how is it justified when you send troops into Chicago? Well, then it's about drugs. And when you send troops into Milwaukee, then it's just about what? Disrupting the DNC?
Hypocritical, man.
I mean, but fascism goes a little beyond hypocrisy. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but
I don't care about the
hypocrisy. They would be all against what we are talking about as fascism if it was the lefties doing it. If it was the lefties sending troops out in the streets, the Republicans and O'Donnell, they'd be all up there. But see, I'm consistent. I don't want the lefties sending troops into the federal troops in the streets. I don't want the righties sending federal troops into the streets. If you can't get the buy-in of the local municipalities, and I understand, federal law can supersede in certain respects, but I'd be damn sure that my police force was out there making sure their police force was not unconstitutionally arresting, detaining, and otherwise kidnapping my citizens if I were in charge of the city of Milwaukee or the state of Wisconsin. You'd be damn sure we're going to be on their hip pocket. If they're going to come here, we're going to keep an eye on them. Well, and that's how you push back. But what you don't do is allow for fascism because it happens to benefit your political ideology or your end game at the time. You always push back against fascist Republicans, always.
Can we play 100 as we go to break here? Is there time for that? Chad Wolf, this is the Trump administration. This is what they would say in response to you, Dom. Cut 100.
They don't understand the authorities and the responsibility the Department of Homeland Security has. We protect over almost 9,000 federal facilities across the country. We did that 10 years ago. We did it long before this civil unrest started, and we'll continue to do that. And so I don't need invitations by the state mayors or state governors to do our job. We're going to do that, whether they like us there or not. That's our responsibility.
They're coming with or without your permission, with or without your consent, whether you want them here or not. Don't be shocked when they're in the streets of Milwaukee. And I've asked you before, how bad could it get? They could come knocking on that door right there and haul you.
I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. They're not going to haul me in, Curdy. On what charge? What have I done? I haven't touched a federal building.
You think they need charges?
You're damn right they need charges.
They don't even need stinking badges. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Happy Taco Tuesday.
You know what I am? I'm a nationalist.
We have to bring back law and order.
I think I would have been a good general, but who knows? I know more about drones than anybody.
We will find you. We will arrest you. We will jail you.
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer at Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
We know small businesses are navigating uncharted waters right now due to the lasting effects of COVID-19 and social unrest. As an independent radio network, we want to support our community. So Talk 1017 FM is announcing Pay It Forward grants to provide advertising to small businesses and help them get back on their feet. To nominate your small business for a Pay It Forward grant with Talk 1017 FM, give us a call at 608-819-8255 or go to talk1017fm.com. Let's get through this, everyone.
Milwaukee, join me, Alan Robinson, Wednesday evenings for my new show, Wiz Cannabis Radio. We're setting the record straight on cannabis in Wisconsin. Follow me at Wisco Cannabis and listen live Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. right here on Talk 1017 FM.
Milwaukee, tune in from 11 to 2 on Talk 101.7 FM for the Tom Hartman program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live Monday through Friday right here on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network.
The Devil's Advocates are live weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Thanks for the job you do. It sure showed in the Supreme Court.
But I just want to thank you guys for your program.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't get enough credit for this. We've never had a voice ever in the state.
So I think you guys really need to take a bow.
Thanks again for your work. It's really important.
You need these guys. They're there for all of us.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you. 101.7 FM, your fix for progressive talk radio from Cudahy to Wauwatosa. Always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
You are the enemy of the people.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Join us on this Taco Tuesday, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I was just really troubled listening to a guy I thought was a decent human being, but maybe I'm wrong, Dan O'Donnell, on Righty Whitey Talk Radio this morning. I just found myself thinking, this is how our nation devolves into fascism. And it's not just Dan O'Donnell. There's 81 stations, and they're playing a very similar tune all across Wisconsin. That's one state in the entire United States. 81 right-wing talk radio stations supporting the actions of inserting federal agents without insignia on the streets of Portland. And this has been insightful. We just played the sound of Chad Wolf. He's the acting Homeland Security Secretary. And his thought is what? We're coming whether you want us there or not. And there was a Navy guy, and we've got some sound from this guy. He is a Navy veteran. His name, Chris David. And he went out there and he tried to, deal with these federal agents. Dom, you tell the story.
I got a little bit here from the New York Times before we get to that sound. John Ismay reporting, Chris David had largely ignored the protest in downtown Portland, Oregon, but when he saw videos of unidentified federal agents grabbing protesters off the street and throwing them into rented minivans, he felt compelled to act. Mr. David, a Navy veteran, said that federal agents' use of violent tactics against protesters without the support of the mayor, the governor, or local law enforcement was a violation of the oaths that agents take to support, uphold, and defend the Constitution. And so on Saturday, he took a bus downtown to ask the officers how they squared their actions with that oath. Instead of getting an answer, Mr. David was beaten with a baton by one federal officer as another doused him with pepper spray, according to video footage of the encounter.
And he's a big dude.
Big Navy dude, yeah. After he walked away from the confrontation, Mr. David was taken to a nearby hospital where a specialist at his right hand was broken and would require surgery to install pins, screws, and plates. He declined pain medication.
No, I'd have taken the pain meds. Let's play some sound from this Navy vet, Chris David. This big dude, I mean, they were walloping this guy with billy clubs, and he was large enough. He was taking the beating and threw the double birds at these guys on his way down the street. But here's some sound. Fancy Brian, let's get started. So there's time. Cut number 80, Navy vet, Chris David.
Well, yeah, that was actually the primary reason that I went down to this protest since it was my first one. I wanted to see if I could have a civil discussion with these federal agents, officers, and ask them why they felt that it was okay what they were doing, that I felt that they were violating their oath to the Constitution. And so what I did in preparation for that, I put on my Naval Academy sweatshirt, my Navy wrestling hat, and my backpack with all my CB patches, under the presumption that they would respect that and maybe talk to me instead of treat me as some other protester. That didn't work out at all.
No, it did not.
Well, he got a conversation and a little bit extra. Cut number 81. He is on a Zoom meeting. Sorry about the sound interference in the background, but we think his voice important. Cut 81, veteran Chris David.
Well, just a bunch of bruises otherwise, but they did pretty much smash my hand up quite a bit with their batons. So I've got a couple fractures in this hand. One of them's pretty serious, so I'm going to have surgery to have that.
I suspect you or even I, Dom, we wouldn't have been standing there taking those wallops. We'd have gone down. This guy, again, a very big guy, and he took a hell of a beating. A little more from the Navy veteran, cut number 82. Sending in the troops is the wrong thing, according to Chris David.
I'm 100% against it. I think it is a move. It's a unilateral move that's being made in order to generate chaos and create divisiveness. I don't see any point to what they're doing, because every night they do the same thing, the same results occur, and the protests only get bigger.
Yeah, can't wait for them to come to Milwaukee. Cut number 83, more with Chris David, Navy veteran. His message.
My message for veterans is remember your oath to the Constitution. I think almost all of us do. For pretty much all of us who serve, we understand the meaning of those. And I was hoping that some of these federal agents were veterans, and maybe they would remember the oath of office they took when they were in the military.
One more. Navy vet Chris David's response to acting Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Ken Cuccinelli, that's a mouthful, just played for the people, cut 84.
Ken Cuccinelli cannot see what is obvious to millions of other people, that I was standing there peacefully and then they beat me for pretty much no reason. Now, I understand the pickle that he is in. He cannot say, yeah, that was inappropriate. Almost everybody else in the United States can, but he can't. And he didn't answer the question. Was that appropriate behavior for somebody who was standing there peaceful?
I would say it was not, Dom.
He can answer the question. He won't answer the question because that's what these fascist cult followers do. They follow the orders of their cult leader, Trump.
Come back with us. We've got a fine legal mind, Ed Fallone, Associate Professor of Law, Marquette University Law School. We'll take your phone calls later in the big show at 844-967-2789. Fascism. If you were on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 was fascism, where are we at right now, Don, to your opinion?
I think it's very subjective. I think for the Navy vet Chris David, that's a 10. That's straight up 10. Walked up to people and he got beaten by federal troops for no reason. He got pepper sprayed for no reason. That's what we're doing now. We're just going to start beating people in the streets for no reason. Well, sooner or later, the people aren't going to take that. And guys like Navy vet Chris David are going to get some supporters behind him, and they're going to go back out in the streets.
Come back with us, a fine guest, Ed Fallone, more Devil's Advocates on the other side.
You are the enemy of the people.
Okay, I need revenge against all my enemies. They should die like pigs in hell.
You're going to be dead. But other than that, I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
I'm Stephanie Hoff, your host, and this podcast is brought to you by Spectrum. Democrats went at each other via Twitter to the point where the state party says it was online bullying. State Senator Tim Carpenter has since apologized to Senate candidate Nada Al-Mikashfi. Pat Pawlenty is on the line for more. Carpenter's Twitter account was temporarily suspended. Why don't you tell us what happened?
Well, let's start by taking this from the beginning, Stephanie. So what this all kind of centers on is a bill that Carpenter is co-sponsoring that would make it a felony to deface or destroy monuments of historical significance on government property. Now remember, Stephanie, Carpenter was injured during Capitol protests that toppled statues. There was a video of him obviously being assaulted by a pair of protesters. And essentially what happened here is following the announcement of the bill that he's co-sponsoring along with the Republican, Representative Rob Hutton of Brookfield, Al-Mikashfi took to Twitter to urge people to elect her to the Senate. So I'm going to quote here, "I can block this absolute bull blank, 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 blank." She referenced Carpenter being assaulted at the late June protest that turns violent. But again, quoting here, that doesn't mean you get to block our civil rights movement.
So, Pat, the fight was over this bill that Carpenter co-sponsored, but how did it get to the point where it was online bullying?
Well, it kicked off on Twitter, Stephanie, like we said. And from that point, the two began an exchange over the course of the weekend, with Carpenter writing that El McFauci didn't have a clue and that he was already an ally. And so as this exchange continued, Carpenter began repeatedly posting to El McFauci's Twitter and Facebook page a screenshot of a private message she sent him expressing, quoting here, "the utmost respect from you."
And this drew up responses from Senate Minority Leader Janet Bewley and the State Dem Party Chair Ben Wickler.
That's right. And to start here, Stephanie, I think we should start by saying that Carpenter himself apologized, noting that he had been taught to respond to disagreements with dignity, thoughtfulness, and patience, and saying that his actions over the last couple days showed that he lost sight of those values. Bewley, the Senate Minority Leader, also thanked Carpenter for his apology and also noted that online bullying disproportionately harms women and people of color. El McFauci is a Muslim black woman here in Wisconsin, and both Bewley and Dem State Party Chair Ben Wickler pledged to improve the party and the caucus's commitment to racial justice.
El McFauci is one of 7 Dems running in the August 11th primary for the open 26th Senate District. And that's where Madison Dem Senator Fred Risser has served for more than 50 years. You can listen to a candidate interview with El McFauci on the WisPolitics.com SoundCloud. Thanks, Pat, for sharing that with us today. Until tomorrow, I'm Stephanie Hoff. Thanks for tuning in.
This has been WisPolitics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit WisPolitics.com.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Five9, your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy five9s.com.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on Talk 101.7 FM, Waukesha's choice for essential radio.
The big and tall of political talk. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, we welcome back a fine guest and a good friend. He is Ed Fallone, Associate Professor of Law, Marquette University Law School. Ed, welcome back.
Happy to be with you guys.
Ed, quite short notice. I appreciate you responding and lacking any good reason to beg off appearing on this show today. Ed, I gotta ask you, how close are we to devolving into fascism? And specifically, I mean the ordering of federal troops or agents onto the streets, sort of against the wishes of local authorities. Ed, how troublesome is that to you, sir?
Well, yeah, we're not talking about the legality yet, but in terms of the precedent it sets in our nation's political history, it is extremely troubling to have a presidential administration that is seeking to create its own sort of police force for internal operations in the country, and in particular to deploy such a force in states where there are Democrats in charge, that perhaps states that are following different policy preferences. And so to have a federal presidential administration seeking to impose its will by inserting, federal agents to patrol the streets in states it doesn't like, that is an extremely, extremely troubling development in our nation's history.
Ed, my understanding is Trump, or perhaps it was William Barr at Trump's direction, had a park cleared for a photo op. We know that Trump has sent federal agents into Portland. He is now apparently going to do the same to Chicago and has threatened, or Mark Meadows, his chief of staff, has threatened to send federal agents into Milwaukee. it seems like an ongoing escalation, Ed, and I'd hate to see it end up in our backyard, let's say during the DNC convention.
Well, it's a provocation. It's a very intentional act. I don't think anyone can seriously claim that there's civil unrest in the streets across the country or anarchy. I mean, what we have are demonstrations that are for the most part peaceful, and in some spots, some small groups of individuals have destroyed property. But this is not the kind of anarchy where anyone should think that we need to do something like this. So it's a provocative act. It's not necessary. It's intentionally done in order to send a political message to his supporters. It's intended to divert the conversation away from the administration's failing to address the coronavirus epidemic. And it is, it should be seen and appreciated as sort of naked political stunt that it is.
And I heard one of my colleagues in political talk radio earlier today offer plenty of legal justifications to the Trump administration. They're coming after a federal courthouse, and the courthouse is the embodiment of the United States. Something like that was said. But doesn't that effectively ignore the First Amendment to the Constitution and the right of peaceful assembly and free speech? It seems like, the protection of a courthouse should not override the Constitution. But what do you think, sir?
Well, there's two separate issues. I mean, one is the federalism concern, which is under what possible jurisdiction do federal agents have to engage individuals in the street and police the law in the interior of the United States. We have a statute of long standing, the Posse Comitatus Act, which prohibits federal officials and the military from enforcing the law inside of states. Now, there are various exceptions to that, and protecting federal property is an exception. But then the second issue is also the civil liberties question, and of course, the Constitution is never suspended. Our constitutional rights exist at all times. One of those is the right to peaceably assemble and to protest. And so even actions by the Trump administration that seek to intimidate or deter people from gathering and engaging in their First Amendment rights could be seen as unconstitutional. Of course, the Trump administration doesn't worry about the legal consequences. It acts first and then allows lawsuits to follow, and that's one of the reasons why it has such an abysmal record in the U.S. Supreme Court. It doesn't worry about the legal justification. It lets the consequences follow as they may.
Ed, talking about the jurisdiction, if Donald Trump's going to send these, federal law enforcement troops into a city that does not want them, let's say the city of Milwaukee, for example, what authority does the mayor here or the governor of the state of Wisconsin, for that matter, have to shadow those federal troops to make sure that they're not overstepping their bounds, unconstitutionally detaining, arresting, kidnapping citizens exercising their constitutional rights? I mean, could you see something like that happening in an adversarial situation where a local police force is standing up to the federal troops that Trump's sending out?
Well, I am not anticipating, and certainly I'm not hoping that we get to a point of open confrontation between state and local officials on the one side and federal officials on the other. Normally speaking, federal agents like ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they do operate under sort of agreements between themselves and local law enforcement in terms of the parameters of what they can do, limiting their actions to their federal jurisdiction. And also there are requirements typically as to the proper training of these federal agents before the local authorities allow them to be utilized within the local borders. And so I think the first step would be revoking of any such agreements and then going to court to seek an injunction to prevent the federal agents from operating without permission beyond the narrow scope allowed by federal law. When you're in the Washington, D.C. area, Washington, D.C. is a federal enclave, so there's much more freedom for federal agents from Border Patrol or the Bureau of Prisons to operate freely on the streets. But once you're in a state, you're limited to congressional statutes that say you can protect federal property if you're a federal agent. You can investigate federal crimes, but just wandering the streets seeking to arrest people for violations of state law, that is not permitted in the absence of an express agreement with local authorities.
Ed, I have one more question on this particular topic. And we don't know from the video what some of these protesters and First Amendment supporters have been doing off camera. But you see some of these troops come up and just start grabbing people, throwing them to unmarked vans. I got to be honest, I assume I wouldn't be addressed. But if something like that came down and you haven't done anything to your mind and people come up to you dressed in camouflage with weapons and the only insignia is a general police badge that anybody could get in an unmarked vehicle, I'd be hard-pressed to want to go along with whatever orders they may be giving me, Ed. What happens to our individual constitutional rights? Do we have the right to deny that attempted arrest if we believe that it's being done, perhaps not by federal troops or unconstitutionally?
Well, Dom, I think you really put your finger on the true danger. I mean, we can debate the legalities of it and we can debate the political science aspect of it, but really we're talking about the practical impact of what does it mean to do this and deploy these federal agents. And I think it's twofold. First of all, as you point out, people who are protesting peacefully, who are suddenly confronted by someone who doesn't identify themselves, who wants to push them into an unmarked vehicle, I think the normal human reaction might be to resist. And then that escalates into violence and potential harm to the individual. And then they get charged with resisting arrest, which, of course, they had no idea they were being arrested, and they had no idea it was lawful for them to be arrested. And then the second issue of practical concern is it's very easy for white supremacist groups to pretend to be federal agents and to try and disrupt. We know that these organizations are out there, that they're hoping to increase and escalate tensions for their own political purposes, and we know that they like to impersonate police officers and federal agents. And so it is quite possible that in cities where federal agents are deployed, you will have imposters on the streets, and that can create situations that lead to violence. So this is just really an unwise thing for the Trump administration to do, but of course, they're only looking at their own political advantage.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got a good friend and a fine guest live via phone. He is Ed Fallone, Associate Professor of Law, Marquette University Law School. Ed, we were at prior events, and there was a huge police state, both in Cleveland in 2016 and in Philadelphia, where the DNC was. Lots of gates, lots of cops on horses, and different people in differing jurisdictional uniforms, and it was hard to keep track of who might represent whom out there on the streets. They all seem like cops to me, Ed. But ultimately, if it is Trump's intent, for whatever his motive, to send federal agents during the DNC, let's say to disrupt or at least be a lightning rod for the disruptions that might ensue, whose job would it be to stand up against the Trump administration? Would it be Barrett? Would it be Tony Evers, Attorney General Josh Kaul, ACLU? Who stands up to the Trump administration if they have troops arriving in Milwaukee to coincide with the DNC?
Well, I think the primary responsibility would be with the mayor's office and Milwaukee police. They would have the primary jurisdiction over the site of the DNC. And so one would expect them to, not just be consulted by the Trump administration, but to have a seat at the table in the planning of security, and certainly not to be overruled even by the Secret Service. So I think they would have the first instance. I think, secondly, one would hope that there would be targeted litigation brought in both state court and federal court here in Wisconsin. The ACLU is a likely candidate. They've already reacted to past use of federal agents, and so I think that would be helpful. But, litigation goes slowly. So it's really a need to have those local officials in the city government in particular and the Milwaukee police force really standing up to the federal agents and making sure that they live up to promises and that they follow appropriate guidelines.
Ed, I want to pivot to a differing topic if we could. The Trump administration is apparently seeking to bar undocumented immigrants from a portion of the census count. And my understanding is we are supposed to count all people, Ed, one person, one vote, that kind of thing. What's your interpretation of the current census practice?
Well, we've had a long-standing practice in our nation of the census counting everyone within the jurisdiction of the United States. It does say in the Constitution that there will be an enumeration of all persons, and the word person under constitutional law includes not just citizens. It includes undocumented persons. It includes legal immigrants. The word persons has even been interpreted to include corporations for some constitutional purposes, as many of your listeners know and are undoubtedly screaming at the radio right now. So the established precedent, there's a great deal of precedent that suggests the word persons does not mean citizen, and there are other parts of the Constitution where the word citizen is used, and so we assume that the framers of the Constitution knew the difference between the two words. It is very troubling to me that the Trump administration has stocked the federal courts with so many appointees who are extremely conservative and who have a radical view of citizenship and the scope of political rights. They certainly have no problem with cutting back on voting rights for citizens, for example.
Ed, let me interrupt you just for a moment. We're about out of time. I want to get to the real heart of the question. Ed, do you think this is an effort to purposefully undercount Latinos, et cetera, especially in blue states?
It's an effort to intimidate Latinos from responding to the census, even if they are citizens. If there are undocumented persons in their household, it may intimidate them. It's an effort to play to the base of the Trump voter who hates immigrants, and anytime Trump's in trouble politically, he lashes out at non-citizens and immigrants. So I think those are the purposes.
Ed Fallone, Associate Professor of Law, Marquette University Law School. Thank you so much for answering the call today, Ed. Glad you didn't have to wash your hair. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime. Take care.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open and toll free, 844-967-2789.
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer at Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention Across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
Looking to support Black-owned businesses in the Milwaukee area? Download the MKE Black mobile app, now available on Android and iPhone devices. Find your new favorite Black-owned restaurants, boutiques, and more in the Milwaukee, Waukesha, and Racine areas. MKE Black also supports local Black businesses with events, grants, and marketing. To learn more, visit us at mkeblack.org. Once again, that's mkeblack.org.
Hello, my name is Marquesa Tucker, Director of the African American Roundtable and co-founder of Liberate MKE. We recently relaunched our Liberate MKE campaign, requesting a $75 million divestment from the Milwaukee Police Department. We want a $50 million reinvestment for public health initiatives and a $25 million reinvestment to support housing cooperatives. We encourage everyone to check out our website, liberatemke.com, and join our campaign to support defunding the police. Let's liberate MKE and support building healthy communities that can thrive.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 a.m. Next, it's the Stephanie Miller Show from 8 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's the Earl Ingram Show. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. At 6, it's Busted Pencils, Whis Cannabis Radio, and Maggie Dawn. And at 7, it's Democracy Now! Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com. When it comes to politics, people come to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network, 1017 Milwaukee and 927 Madison.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to thank our most fine last guest, Ed Fallone, Associate Professor of Law at Marquette University.
He is most fine.
And he is the last guest, at least for today, hopefully not forever. You know, quick story on Ed. I don't think you'll mind.
Yeah.
I invited him on today, and he said to me, he paused for a moment, and he thought, and then said, I cannot think of a single reason to beg out of this interview.
See?
And I thought, I got married in a very similar fashion.
She couldn't think of a single reason to say no?
Not at the moment.
She probably came up with a few since then, though.
Oh, I suspect. Thank you, Ed Fallone. Thank you, Mrs. Crudy. Thank you all for listening. And come on, Alan. What happened to you, Alan? 844-967-2789. Dom, we do have other sound. U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth from Illinois. Now, my understanding is they plan on inserting federal agents in Chicago next. That would be her district. She had this to say. Of course, I think like you and I, Dom, thinks this is overreach. Fancy Brian, going to need your help. If you would, play the esteemed senator from the somewhat great state of Illinois. Now that it's legal weed, let's call it a great state. Cut number 75.
He has overreached his authority, and my understanding for what they plan on doing in Chicago is actually sending DHS and then also ICE troops, folks to come after so-called human trafficking, and so they're not even coming to work on gun violence.
Let's play the next one. I believe Duckworth again addresses gun violence. Cut number 76.
If you want to do something about gun violence, call Mitch McConnell. Let's have a vote on the floor today on universal background checks and on straw purchases of guns. Let's go after gun trafficking. You want to do something? Call Mitch McConnell. Have that vote. It would pass.
Well, I don't think there's much of a thought or half a prayer of that happening, Dom. More of Senator Duckworth from the great state of Illinois, if you would, Fancy Brian. Cut number 77.
What are they coming for? I mean, in Portland, they did it to protect Confederate statues. So they sent federal troops in unmarked cars, in riot gear with unmarked, without any designation on it, to go protect statues of people who were traitors to this nation. That's what he's standing up for. Don't even think about it in Chicago, and certainly not anywhere in this country. It is wrong, and I'm going to work very hard to stop him.
She's the one that calls Trump cadet bone spurs, right? One more. Senator Duckworth, if you would, Fancy Brian, cut 78.
Don't even think about it. This is disgusting, and it is the further politicization of our institutions, which should be nonpartisan. He did it with the military when he sent National Guard troops against peaceful protesters in Lafayette Square, and now he's done it in Portland, and he's come to Chicago.
And perhaps Milwaukee will be the next stop on the tour.
Perhaps coming soon to a town near you. 844-967-2789. And she makes a great point, Senator Duckworth. You're so concerned about these treasonous, traitorous bastards, the rebels, the Confederacy that lasted 4 years, half as long as the Obama administration. And this is what you're going to hang your hat on. Of course, it's all just a reason, just an excuse to try to flex some law and order muscle. And ultimately, I think it, like many of the other things he's trying to do, will ultimately backfire on him. Because people don't want that. As much as he thinks that they do, people do not want innocent protesters being gassed, getting taken off the streets. I mean, this is about the Constitution. And despite what perhaps your right-wing friend says, Crudy, a brick and mortar building, a federal courthouse, is not the embodiment of this country. It's supposed to be the Constitution and the ideals for which we are to strive, not brick and mortar.
I want to jump into this at least briefly. James Comey, you remember him, Dom. He wrote an op-ed at the Post. Is televised conflict Trump's goal? I want to get this one started. Each day brings more images of dark green-clad helmeted figures striking and spraying unarmed protesters on the street of Portland, Oregon. The figures are federal officers rejected by local leaders and embraced by Donald Trump, who speaks of spreading that federal presence to other troubled cities. The idea of a shadowy, uninvited federal force is troubling, but it's not clear that the federal officers in Portland are acting unlawfully. Federal and Oregon laws appear to offer wide latitude to make arrests and forego identifying insignia in service of their mission to protect federal property, including courthouses. Maybe that should change, but current law appears to give them a lot of room. What is clear is that they're acting stupidly, a mistake that may be about to repeat in other places with lasting consequences for federal law enforcement. With some protesters itching for street confrontations with officers in full tactical gear, federal officials are giving a small group of violent people what they want. And they're giving the citizens of Portland and the rest of us, no matter our politics, what we don't want. The specter of an unconstrained and anonymous force from a central government authority. It has been the stuff of American nightmares since 1776. 1976, my favorite birthday, the bicentennial of this country. American nightmares since 1776, Tom.
Fairly or unfairly, visions of DHS officers in camo without apparent identifying insignia dragging people into unmarked vans are now seared into the collective memory. Federal law enforcement, like all parts of the justice system, depends on the faith and confidence of the American people, a credibility now being spent recklessly by the Trump administration. And the DHS, a key element of this administration's chaotic and often immoral immigration enforcement, had precious little credibility left to spend in the first place. Thanks to Portland, its cupboard is now empty. And even if it weren't behavior inconsistent with American values and self-defeating for the agencies involved, it is also just plain dumb to give protesters another sinister embodiment of the feds to rail against.
Here's the conclusion. What better way for Trump to demonstrate to his followers that he is your president of law and order than to deploy highly visible federal officers in a way that is sure to invite violent conflict, which of course demonstrates the need for a law and order president. And on it goes. The only thing damaged in the process will be the United States and the federal law enforcement agencies our country needs. Yet again, the craving of our president for re-election seems to override everything. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Your phone calls at 844-967-2789. And Dom, Russian propaganda. We've got the laundering of propaganda by your little buddy, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. We like to call him Brojo. Come back with us. Hour 2 is next.
That was a big day. Medal of Honor. Nothing like the Medal of Honor. I wanted one, but they told me I don't qualify, Woody. I said, can I give it to myself anyway? They said, I don't think that's a good idea.
There's nobody bigger or better at the military than I am.
I will not be lectured about what our military needs by a 5.
We know small businesses are navigating uncharted waters right now due to the lasting effects of COVID-19 and social unrest. As an independent radio network, we want to support our community. So Talk 1017 FM is announcing Pay It Forward grants to provide advertising to small businesses and help them get back on their feet. To nominate your small business for a Pay It Forward grant with Talk 1017 FM, give us a call at 608-819-8255 or go to talk1017fm.com. Let's get through this, everyone. Don't send in those absentee ballots just yet. Talk 1017 FM is broadcasting forums for you to hear about candidates running to represent Milwaukee. Thursday, August 6th, meet the candidates running to represent Assembly District 17, previously held by Representative David Crowley. Tune in Friday, August 7th to hear the candidates running for the 8th Assembly District, Representative Jocasta Zamaripa's previous seat. Both nights, the forums will be broadcasted from 7 to 8 p.m., exclusively on Talk 1017 FM, always streaming at talk1017fm.com. You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Back to briefings. Stimulus talks. I'm Rich Johnson. President Trump is scheduled to lead a White House briefing of his coronavirus task force. First time in several weeks he has taken the lead. The head of the task force, Vice President Mike Pence, was in South Carolina today addressing a huge spike in corona cases in the Sun Belt. Also not at the briefing, Dr. Anthony Fauci. He says he was not invited and last spoke to the president late last week. On CNN last hour, he repeated the familiar words about how to best fight the spread of the virus.
Things like universal wearing of masks, close the bars, stay physically distant, outdoors better than indoors, particularly if you're going to have restaurants, sparsely seat people separated from each other. Wash your hands.
On Capitol Hill, lots of talk about lots of proposals for the next economic stimulus bill.
Gold this morning, according to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, telling her caucus that she wants a bipartisan deal by the end of next week. And the Treasury Secretary, Stephen Mnuchin, who's on Capitol Hill right now, I asked him about that. He said that is absolutely the goal.
Correspondent Manu Raju with the Capitol, where the price tag for that new package could easily top $1 trillion. Congressional Democrats are not happy with President Trump's reported plan to send more federal officers to other cities, like the one stationed around the federal building in Portland, Oregon.
He did it with the military when he sent National Guard troops against peaceful protesters in Lafayette Square, and now he's done it in Portland, and he's come to Chicago. Don't even think about it.
Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth on reports that 150 officers are being deployed to Chicago. The Dow gained about 160 points today. The NASDAQ lost about 86. And the S&P gained about 5 points. United Airlines says it lost $2.6 billion in the second quarter, which pencils out to about $40 million a day. Says a third quarter loss shouldn't be that bad. I'm Rich Johnson.
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer, Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
This is Michael Johnson, President of Boys and Girls Club. We are proposing to the state legislature to add a new statue of Vale Phillips to the state capitol. Vale was the first African American to be elected to a statewide office, the first judge, and the first alderwoman. The time is now, and it's unfortunate that in 2020, there's not one piece of art representing and celebrating the life and legacy of African Americans in Wisconsin. Please contact your state representative and ask for their full support.
We've heard a lot about how masks work, and there have been many studies about their effectiveness. Now one researcher is studying the studies.
Ecology professor Ben Abbott calls the consensus striking. He and his students studied 130 studies concerning the effectiveness of face coverings, and they all agree that they indeed are effective in containing the spread of COVID-19. Abbott says the problem with masks is misinformation being spread on social media. Social media posts, for instance, claim mask studies show that wearing them decrease oxygen and increase carbon dioxide. Abbott says not one single study cites any of that. Masks work, he says, in stopping the spread, and there are no negative effects from wearing them. I'm Jim Root.
It's not just the Washington Redskins. The Edmonton Eskimos of the Canadian Football League are now on the hunt for a new nickname. In a short statement on Twitter, it says for now, it will be known as the Edmonton Football Team until it settles on a name. I'm Rich Johnson.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker for Busted Pencils Radio. Educated educators talking education. Tuesday nights at 7, right here on WRRD 1510 AM, Milwaukee.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Do, re, mi. The first three notes just happen to me.
So
when need to pulling down.
I can see listeners dropping off. Let's get some callers before we lose everybody. Betsy from Madison, you're up. Thanks for calling.
That will bring us back to
Terrible.
Hey, at least we didn't do Edelweiss.
For 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gusted with your headlines. Following the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission special session yesterday, Chief Morales has been given a list of 11 directives along with a deadline he must follow or risk being suspended, demoted, or fired. The first directive was obtaining department records for several major incidents, including the Sterling Brown arrest, the use of force and tear gas on demonstrators at last month's protests, and the arrest of community activist Vaughn Mays. A group of 7 Milwaukee alders issued a statement of no confidence in Chief Morales. The statement came prior to the Milwaukee FBC's special session to determine the next steps for Morales. The alders cited several reasons for their lack of confidence, including the gassing of the protesters at 6th and McKinley last month, as well as the failure to terminate off-duty officer responsible for the death of Joel Acevedo. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Taco Tuesday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. And we will certainly make time for you today on the phones at 844-967-2789. No more guests.
It's just us and them.
Everybody else begged off.
Everyone else had hair to wash.
I don't have that problem. That's why I'm here with you on the radio every day. You got a haircut.
I did. It was hot, man. I cut like 4 inches off.
4 inches?
Yeah, I feel a little taller now.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm almost 5'7", I think.
How tall was Prince Valiant? Now, quickly, Dom, let's turn our attention from your hair to politics and a headline at Politico. Dem leaders demand FBI briefing on foreign interference campaign targeting lawmakers. I saw this described as what? Information laundering.
What?
And the subject of this piece, Dom, in large part, your buddy, Ron Johnson, Rojo.
Oh, Senator Johnson, what are you doing?
Natasha Bertrand and others, Democratic leaders, are asking the FBI for an urgent briefing arising out of a concern that members of Congress are being targeted by a foreign operation intended to influence the 2020 presidential election, according to a letter they released publicly yesterday. Amongst the Democratic concerns is that a Senate investigation led by Rojo Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, has become a vehicle for laundering a foreign, and they use that word, laundering in quotes, a foreign influence campaign to damage Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, according to 2 people familiar with the demand. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer demanded the all-Congress briefing Monday, citing specific, again in quotes, intelligence that a foreign influence operation targeted lawmakers to launder and amplify disinformation in order to influence congressional activity. Though the letter did not mention the Johnson investigation, it included a classified addendum that the 2 sources say identified the probe as one of the sources of their concern. We are gravely concerned in particular that Congress appears to be the target of a concerted foreign interference campaign which seeks to launder and amplify disinformation in order to influence congressional activity, public debate, and the presidential election in November, Pelosi and Schumer wrote in their letter, which was also signed by the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Rep. Adam Schiff, and the vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Mark Warner, a Dem from Virginia. All 4 Democratic signatories are members of the Gang of Eight, a group of 8 lawmakers who are briefed on classified intelligence by the executive branch. But let's get to Rojo, Dom. Asked about Democrats' contention, Johnson, who chairs the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, told Politico, "They're simply wrong."
They're wrong.
And Schiff is the last person to talk, he added.
What, Schiff is laundering Russian propaganda? Is that what he's implying?
A Johnson aide added that the senator himself had sought an FBI briefing on these issues. Committee staff has already requested and received a staff briefing on this issue, and Chairman Johnson has requested an additional briefing at the member level. That briefing has not occurred in part because of the agency's requested additional information from minority staff, which has not followed on these requests since mid-May. How dare they not run down this rabbit hole in a timely fashion? Dom, the letter's authors, did not publicly offer additional detail about the nature of the counterintelligence threat they described. But lawmakers of both parties have warned for months that foreign powers like Russia are intent on interfering in the 2020 U.S. election process, including, Democrats say, through Johnson's investigation.
What?
Which targets Biden's son Hunter.
Curdy the Probe centers on claims that a Democratic public relations firm sought to leverage Hunter Biden's role on the board of Ukrainian energy company Burisma to influence the State Department under the Obama administration. Johnson has asked several former State Department officials to testify, and he is eyeing subpoenas as soon as this week if they do not agree to appear for depositions voluntarily. Johnson renewed his demand for transcribed interviews and documents from the former officials days after a Ukrainian lawmaker, Andrei Durkak, who has met with Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, to discuss investigating the Biden family, used a news conference to accuse the Bidens and Amos Hochstein, a former special envoy for international energy affairs at the State Department, of an elaborate conspiracy to steal hundreds of millions of dollars from Ukraine. The last time senators were briefed on election security and foreign influence operations, Democratic lawmakers confronted Johnson behind closed doors about his investigation, arguing that it threatens the integrity of the 2020 election and relies on Russian disinformation to tar a political opponent. They cited in particular Johnson's initial effort to subpoena Andrei Teleshenko, who has published unsubstantiated claims about coordination between the Ukrainian government and the Democratic National Committee in 2016. Johnson dropped plans to subpoena Teleshenko after the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force briefed senators about him, focusing on concerns over his credibility.
Apparently, or lack thereof,
Last week, Senators Gary Peters of Michigan, the top Democrat on the Homeland Security Committee, renewed his request for defensive briefings from the FBI as Johnson's investigation intensifies. Some Senate Republicans, too, have previously signaled unease with Johnson's investigation. In December, Senator Richard Burr, a Republican from North Carolina, who was chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee at the time, privately told Johnson that his inquiry could aid Russia, according to 2 congressional sources familiar with the meeting. And Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican in South Carolina, warned in February that any derogatory information coming out of Ukraine about any American should be vetted by intelligence agencies because, quote, Russia is playing us all like a fiddle. The Democratic leader's letter was dated July 13th and addressed to the FBI Director Christopher Wray, but they released it publicly Monday. Given the seriousness and specificity of these threats, as members of congressional leadership and the Congressional Intelligence Committees, we believe it is imperative that the FBI provide a classified defensive briefing to all members of Congress and that the briefing draw on all source intelligence information and analysis consistent with due regard for the protection of sensitive intelligence sources and methods, they continued. The FBI acknowledged receiving the letter, but the Bureau declined to comment further. In their letter, the Democratic leaders demanded the briefing, quote, prior to the August recess at the earliest possible opportunity, and they want a schedule in place by the end of the day, Monday.
Rojo, what are you doing, Rojo? We've got some exclusive sound, Dom. We're going to share it with the audience, but not quite yet. You got to stick around for a minute. We've been questioning this since the day after Rojo voted to acquit at Trump's impeachment trial. 844-967-2789. Let's get our fair audience involved. Let's go to the phones. Damn it. Alan. Oh, you do it, man. Alan from India.
Alan, welcome. What do you got for us today?
Hey, guys. Sad day for the left. Political commentator Michael Brooks died. Young guy, 37. Nobody at that age could break down geopolitics, specifically South America, labor issues, imperialism with our country and other countries, and break it down in a way that was really easy to digest. I mean, it was amazing. Like, the dude could explain exactly how things impacted people on the ground. Huge loss. I don't know, there's the community left community is small. I know, I don't know if I ever talked to you guys about Harvey J.K., professor in Green Bay.
No, that doesn't ring a bell. I don't think, Alan.
Okay. He just retired. He's a history professor from Green Bay. Labor history. He was on Michael's show a lot. Michael just came out with a book that talked about the right wing and the intellectual dark web and how that all feeds into Republican politics. Anybody that wants to look it up, it'd be great. If you could have Harvey J.K. on, talk about labor rights sometime, it'd be awesome. So, thanks, guys.
Alan, thank you for sharing that with the audience. We appreciate it. 844-967-2789. Been a bit, but he's back. It's Brock from Huracan. Sorry, Brock, unfamiliar computer, and it sounds like a bad phone line. Give it a try. What do you got for us, Brock?
Well, Rojo can't read the Mueller report.
Brock, Huracan's phone system sucks, man. Try us back. Sorry about that, brother. 844-967-2789. Let's try another caller, Dom. Frank from Milwaukee. Pray you've paid the phone bill this month, Frank. What do you sound like?
Hey, Frank.
Oh, believe me, I got an expensive one between calling the White House and Republican idiots. Good afternoon. Isn't Ron Johnson like Trump in intelligence? Isn't that an oxymoron? Then I was watching TV last night, the news. Not only did they beat that Navy veteran, they were beating mothers up in Portland. Is this Trump's tough boy image, beating up women?
Yes, a bunch of moms going arm in arm and putting themselves between the federal troops and the peaceful protesters. Yeah, that's a great image. Yeah, gas them, beat them.
Whose mom would Jesus tear gas, Frank?
He wouldn't tear gas the Maz and that Navy veteran. He might tear gas Trump, though. And that crap is trickling down. Dumbass Kemp, the governor of Georgia, he's suing the mayor, Lance Keisha Bottoms. I hope she's getting better. Her whole family had COVID-19. I hope they're recuperating from it.
Frank, I don't think it all trickles down. I think there's a fresh batch of dumbass each and every day. They're called Republicans. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, 844-967-2789.
Has exposed things that didn't need to be exposed.
Are you now, or have you ever worked for Russia?
I know nothing about Russia. President Putin, he just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary Treasurer, Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
Max Inc. Radio, this is Rocker. A new book by whose advocates? The devil? What's it called? The studio where it happened? Oh no, Jimmy, they're gonna expose the source of double dipping.
Will Jimmy and Rocker be exposed? Is double dipping even bad? Tune in to Max Inc. Radio Saturday and Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m. for local music, interviews, and more.
Rocker, what about the cave?
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin on historic Brady Street. The Roman Coin was originally a Pabst Tight House built by Frederick Pabst in 1890 to sell Pabst beer. It was even designed by the same architect who designed the Pabst Theater. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's historic, pet-friendly, cash-only, ordering classic corner tavern.
My Shiro always goes the extra mile, stretches every dollar, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
1017 FM, your fix for progressive talk from Menominee Falls to New Berlin. Always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Join us at 844-967-2789.
Let's get back to them. Eileen from Madison, you're next. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I have some comments about the Portland and Chicago situation. Over the weekend on PBS, probably Sunday night, maybe Saturday night, there was a documentary about Hungary and the takeover of the government. And in essence, what they did was start by bribing people to have 3 children. And there were quotas, and there were, it was like they could get a car and they could have reduced loan rates. And then if they had a 3rd child, it would be forgiven. And there were snippets from Hitler and creating a one-party country, and the Gestapo going out, just like in Portland and Chicago, supposedly maybe Milwaukee coming up. I think it was about an hour. I don't remember, but I started watching it just because I was concerned about the child thing. And as the program progressed, it was clear that the prime minister ended up being in control of the country, and it was all terror and fear. And I know Trump is not smart enough to figure this out. This is not just one of those spontaneous knee-jerk reactions on his part. There's a group behind him that's creating this fear. And the other thing is there has to be, as Duckworthy says, not in my town. They're not coming there. Either on the congressional level or on the state, and it has to be a Democrat, has to be a Democratic governor and people in power that have to eliminate these people. There's just no business for them being there, but everybody, I hope they're scurrying around to find some law, some force, something, some constitutional requirement that makes these people leave.
Eileen, my concern, at least here in the state of Wisconsin, because we could be affected, and I would say the DNC that's coming up in less than a month, that could be the event, that could be the triggering mechanism. And I would wonder, the very same governor that doesn't know whether or not he's got the authority to order people to wear masks, he's going to order the federal government out of his state? I just don't see it coming, not from Tony Evers. And quite frankly, Mayor Tom Barrett, I'm a little skeptical, Dom scenario where local law enforcement would stand up to the federales. Can you see Morales's people here in Milwaukee doing that? I can't envision that happening.
No, but everybody should really just on their brains just look for something. Where are the national people? This has to be illegitimate what they're doing if there's no identity on the forces that are coming in, there has to be some congressional person. I don't think Ron Johnson is that smart too, and I think they aren't realizing that all of their jobs, their lives, their futures are going to be in jeopardy, as are their children's, if there is a takeover of the country.
Eileen, Ron's rich. He's going to be just fine.
Hey, Eileen, before we let you go, I want to get your take. If what we see going on in Portland happened with you personally, and a couple of camo armed men came over and tried to throw you in the back of a van, how would you react to something like that?
If I was in the van, I would be
if you were the target, they were coming after, would you go willingly? How do you respond to something like that? No insignias.
Of course not. Yeah. No, it's just that this is really organized so well, and it's been in the making for so long. This is not a spontaneous thing on Trump's part. This has been organized for a long time. Somebody in Washington, some Democrats, there have to be some not wimpy Republicans who are concerned about this whole thing. And there just has to be something done. It has to become from a national. Somebody had better scour the laws and rules of force, such as this going on, and identified force. Taking, flirting. What the really good guy was the Navy guy the other day, and he said he's not going back because he's scared.
Eileen, appreciate your thought. You talked about the rise to power can't happen without some co-conspirators. Well, we know who they are. They're Ron Johnson. They're Mitch McConnell. They're the Republican senators that voted to acquit Trump at his impeachment. I mean, there's some blame to go around. We know where to direct it. And they're either going to walk away from Trump because his polling is so disastrous, Eileen, that he is just an albatross that they've got to walk away from, or they're all going down in history. They're all going to have it on their tombstones as well. We conspired with the most corrupt, treacherous, traitorous bastard of all time. And Rojo is going to have a little Hunter Biden investigation, if not Benghazi 3 times, written on his tombstone.
And thank you for the call, Eileen. And I feel your passion, and I'm with you. Some part of me does hope that we'll have some strong political leaders from any party stand up and push back, and be it in the states or on the federal level, something. But as I mentioned last week, I'm not clear that there's anybody coming down from the mountain to save us, Eileen. This is on us. This is on you. This is on me. This is on Crudy. This is on Fancy Brian. Every one of us, every day, in every way, in every action that we take on what is allowed, what we will accept. I think waiting for the heroes is going to be pointless.
I tried the military once. I just don't think I'm going to thrive under fascism. It's not going to be good for me. My complexion's going to go to hell. Probably have to lose some weight.
Probably. I'm going to make you do some sit-ups, man.
Trump's going to throw me in some sort of fat camp. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Plenty more of you on the phones. Coming up next, 844-967-2789. Please don't fat shame me.
I'm fighting for life, brother. I'm fighting for all those people that have remolded their lives, man. Get their priorities in order, man. Walk around with a lot of pride.
Talk it out, man.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer, Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
We know small businesses are navigating uncharted waters right now due to the lasting effects of COVID-19 and social unrest. As an independent radio network, we want to support our community. So Talk 1017 FM is announcing Pay It Forward grants to provide advertising to small businesses and help them get back on their feet. To nominate your small business for a Pay It Forward grant with Talk 1017 FM, give us a call at 608-819-8255 or go to talk1017fm.com. Let's get through this, everyone.
Hi, I'm Tom Newhouse, the piano man, and I have too darn many pianos at Newhouse Piano Workshop. At Newhouse Pianos, I sell only reconditioned pianos at a huge discount price and offer free delivery on all pianos over $1,500. So Google Pianos Milwaukee and click on newhousepianoworkshop.com to check out my current inventory of reconditioned pianos I have for sale. Call or text me at 262-302-1965 to schedule an appointment with me, Tom Newhouse, the piano man.
Hi, this is Becky from Bounce Milwaukee in Bayview. While we aren't open for drop-in play due to coronavirus, we invite you to join us every weekend for our parking lot carpool cinema. 2 movies every Friday and Saturday night at 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. Your car, our lot. Our full food and drink menu is available while you watch. For more information or to reserve your spot, visit bouncemilwaukee.com.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 a.m. Next, it's the Stephanie Miller Show from 8 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's the Earl Ingram Show. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. At 6, it's Busted Pencils, Wiz Cannabis Radio, and Maggie Dawn. And at 7, it's Democracy Now! Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
Essential Talk Radio, made for the 99%, only on Talk 1017 FM and WORD 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
For 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gusted with your headlines. Milwaukee-based Briggs & Stratton is filing for bankruptcy. Private equity firm KPS Capital Partners LP will purchase all of the company's assets for roughly $550 million, as well as provide $265 million to finance operations during the bankruptcy proceedings. KPS will now enter into a new collective bargaining agreement for hourly employees at the Wauwatosa plant. Briggs & Stratton has 1,363 employees in the Milwaukee area, as well as several hundred contract employees in production, and plants in Alabama, Georgia, and New York and Missouri. Highs today in the upper 70s with scattered thunderstorms possible in the late afternoon and evening. Overnight lows in the mid-60s. Wednesday, highs around 80 degrees with partly cloudy skies. Thursday, highs again near 80 with partly cloudy skies. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Charged, never convicted. Dom and Croat are the devil's advocates.
You are the enemy of the people.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. No, I don't feel that way at all. But I am going to threaten you, our fair audience, if you don't keep the phone lines lit up at 844-967-2789. We got live Donald Trump, the coronavirus task force briefings. They're back, baby.
Not really a task force, more like a Donald Trump behind the podium. I don't see any task forcing going on behind him.
A couple of the statements made by the president, in his free-ranging press briefing going on currently. Wear a mask if social distancing is not possible. That is a change of tone. Here's something he said. Coronavirus. It's going to get worse before it gets better. It's going to get worse before it gets better, much like the Trump presidency.
I mean, he's done so many positive things. You remember way back in like February, March when he closed down China. Remember that?
Oh, he's still bragging about that.
He's still bringing that up, and unfortunately,
I think that at some point, that's going to sort of just disappear, I hope.
And he's still thinking that it's going to somehow just disappear.
Technically, at some point, it will just disappear.
Technically, at some point, so will you.
And then I see the disinfectant.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt Crudy, but my understanding, another 80,000 people have died since Trump did his last coronavirus task force press conference.
Was that the one where he encouraged the American people to try injecting some disinfectant?
He was just wondering if that would be helpful.
Just acted Dr. Burks. If we could only get that UV light inside the body.
I'm just thinking outside the box here. I mean, we pour disinfectant on it, and it kills it. Though, can we somehow, get that infused into the body?
I'm kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
I don't kid.
Judge me in November, Trump says, on the economy and my response to the virus. Are we being premature? Could it all turn out for the better, Dom?
What, we're going to get another 140,000 people are going to come back to life? 3.5 million infections are going to all of a sudden disappear and it never happened?
Hey, a simple no would have sufficed.
If the vaccine is beautiful and comes out amazing and it's the most amazing thing ever, I'm sure he will not mess up the distribution of it at all.
Not at all.
And there'll be no profit made on distribution of the vaccine.
Absolutely not. People. And the rich and powerful will not be first in line.
I saw that pharmaceutical executives would make no pledge not to profit on the vaccine. Dominic, you know that Trump would like nothing better to drop a vaccine right before the election. I brought it to you.
I'll take it.
I have the best vaccine.
Hey, listen, the vaccine's free. It's the shipping and handling that's going to kill you.
844-9 merchandising, where the real money on the pandemic's made. 844-967-2789. Our girl Betsy. Welcome back, Betsy. What do you got for us?
Betsy.
Hey, guys. Hey, what do you think about that naked Athena? Come on. I love that stuff. Boy, I don't think that's going to work, though. You know, I told you, Crudy, that he released all those prisoners down south, and they recruited him for Blackwater, and now he has his little army. And this isn't going to get better at all, like he says. It's going to get worse. And, you know, Trump, he's Putin's puppet. This is all planned. And Rojo and all of them, they're all complicit, and they're all traitors, and I hope that we never forget what they've done to our country. And that's my conspiracy theory today, but
wait.
This is yeah?
I need one clarification on the naked Athena. Is that the woman that sat in the street in Portland? Because the only naked Athena I'm familiar with is Dom at bar time. Is it the woman in Portland you reference?
Of course it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That would. Oh my God. Their jaws were. I mean, they couldn't. They were stunned.
They backed away from the naked woman, didn't they? It was the one.
Yeah, they were.
It was like kryptonite. Yeah. All the cops. They just. It's because they'd never seen a naked woman.
That's why they're so angry.
Any other thoughts, Betsy?
I just love you guys, and I thank you for all you do.
Love you back, Betsy.
Thank you, Betsy.
Thanks for calling. 844-967-2789. You better love us at least as much as Betsy does. Pat from Tosa, new name, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hello, Pat.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Following up on Eileen, I'm wondering hypothetically whether governors could call out the National Guard to arrest these Trump thugs.
Yeah.
For impersonating police officers.
Boy, that's going to be a hell of a constitutional crisis on the streets if it ever came to that, wouldn't it, Pat?
Probably, but force probably has to be responded with force.
I'm not clear that you would find the actual soldiers, be they National Guard units or the actual federal soldiers, if you put uniformed people up against each other from the same nation, God forbid. I would pray to God, Pat, that cooler heads would prevail. I couldn't imagine having a shootout between locals and federales.
But, Pat, we also cannot let the federal government or Trump's stormtroopers, because that's really what they are now, going around and just snagging people off the street. And it's one thing if people are involved in vandalism and committing crimes, but I'm not clear that everybody that they're snagging and thrown in the back of unmarked minivans, that is exactly the case. And if the governor doesn't stand up for its citizens or the mayor doesn't stand up for their citizens, who's supposed to stand up for us then, Pat?
Well, that's why I would like to see the National Guard called to our defense.
Well, that or some naked mamas, Pat. I'm not sure who would have more affect. Appreciate your call. Thanks for listening. 844-967-2789. I believe Dave from Madison is next. Welcome, Dave. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dave.
Hello. I'm glad I found you guys and your fellow progressives on that 92.7 in Madison. I didn't know that had come about till recently. But anyway, I don't want to rant about the Donald too much, except for one thing that scared me about him right away in his presidency, and I think a lot of people didn't hear this or possibly didn't care, but he called the president, am I getting this right, President Duterte of Puerto Rico, and congratulated him for killing drug users.
Oh, the Philippines.
Oh, it's the Philippines. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, he tried to sell Puerto Rico after the hurricane, different island, but please continue, Dave.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Trump allegedly or reportedly was willing to sell off the American protectorate of Puerto Rico after it suffered through the hurricane, where he was throwing out the bounty paper towels. Apparently, he was also shopping Puerto Rico on the open market at that time. But anyways, you were talking and referencing, Dave, I believe the Philippines, where Duarte's from, and he's killing off the drug users, the drug dealers.
Well, you just have to be accused as a drug user or a drug dealer, Dave. That's the scary thing about it. They're given the authority of, at least in the Philippines at the time, for the police to just go and start killing people, Dave.
Or as Trump would say, a hell of a good plan.
I'm going to be honest. I happen to be an ex-coke head, but I never sold it to high school kids or got anybody hooked on it, and finally got over it. But I want to echo, one of you guys said, and also I'm not religious, one of you guys said, well, I'm saying, what drug users would Jesus kill? You know?
Well, apparently not the wine drinkers, Dave. Thanks for the call, man. We appreciate it. 844-967-2789.
I can't imagine Jesus doing cocaine. It's a very selfish drug. I would see him more of a marijuana guy, more of a social thing. Puff, puff, pass, says Jesus.
No more puff, puff, pass during COVID, man. Puff, puff, keep.
How does that differ from your normal behavior?
Come on, man. 844-967-2789. Who do we got left? Dick from Madison. Did we do Dick already?
No, not yet.
All right, Dick from Madison. Welcome. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Dick.
Well, I wouldn't expect a real lot from Governor Capon as far as, when they send the stormtroopers in here. But, yeah, isn't it something after 5 months he finally figures out how to put a mask on?
Yeah, and now we should all be so grateful. He's so enlightened. Yeah. He's such a leader. Congratulations.
And it will get worse before it gets better. Well, there's a revelation. Here's the thing with Ron Johnson, though, real quickly. Do you really want to open this wound up about the children of the president versus Biden's son? I heard something hilarious the other day. Don Jr.'s first DUI, you know what street he was arrested on?
What's that?
Hillary Street. Hillary Street. Yeah.
Does he have multiple DWIs? I wasn't tracking his driving record.
Yeah, I guess he's got 3 or 4. Kind of like the old man. He's, he has to keep swinging and missing that stuff before he gets it right. But, no, it's just, this ridiculous thing, I got it on in the background with this mute on. There's no one there. They should just quit covering him. They're doing him a service by even showing him. It's a joke. He's a joke.
Dick, I did not see Dick. Was Anthony Fauci there? Was
No.
Burke's
he
there?
wasn't even invited.
No.
He was not invited.
So Dr. Trump is enlightening us all as to what's going on with the COVID-19. Great. Thanks for the call, Dick.
844-967-2789, I believe. Jeff from Racine will be next. Jeff, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Oh, we lost Jeff. Let's keep going. I believe Joe from Madison. You are next. Thank you for calling today, Joe. Welcome. What do you got?
Hey, Joe.
Great discussion, and I'm hoping that I can offer a little ray of sunshine into what's kind of a bleak landscape here.
Please.
Yeah, this came out of the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. This came out today, July 20, and the District Attorney's name is Larry Krasner. And it's 3 sentences. They're real quick, and I'll read them for you, and it'll just give you a flavor of what he says. He said, this is District Attorney Larry Krasner from Philadelphia. My dad volunteered and served in WW2 to fight fascism like most of my uncles, so we would not have an American president brutalizing and kidnapping Americans for exercising their constitutional rights and trying to make America a better place, which is what patriots do. This is the power sentence. Anyone, including federal law enforcement, who unlawfully assaults and kidnaps people will face criminal charges from my office. At trial, they will face a Philadelphia jury. And I think this is where we go. We talk to the district attorneys. We don't worry about the governor. We say, what are you going to do, district attorney, when that kind of law breaking is happening in your city? What are you going to do? And I think maybe the place to go is to see what Milwaukee County and City Milwaukee district attorneys have to say about this situation. So I would encourage you to have them on to see what they might say.
Thank you, Jill. You're right. That does give us at least some sense that someone may push back. But if that were to come to pass, how effective do you think, Joe, it would be for a sitting governor, a sitting lieutenant governor, the sitting attorney general to go out in the streets as well? And put themselves out there and see for themselves how they are treated, how this occupying federal force reacts to the state's political leaders being in the streets, exercising the very same rights that the citizens have.
I think it would be extremely powerful, and there's no better visual than to say that you are with the people. What would we say? Stand and deliver. Now's the time to get in line. I mean, it would be nothing better than to say, this is where I stand. If my people are here, I'm here. I think it would be great, really something to offer. And I think it is very important to hear from these district attorneys that they won't take that kind of law-breaking, whether you've got some bogus uniform on or not. Kidnapping is kidnapping, period. So I think that would be very effective, too.
Right on, Joe. Thank you for the call.
I wonder if we would have the same affect on people if we showed up naked and tried to throw them in a van.
I think we'd probably be shot, unlike the Godiva lady.
You would go to that van. You've got a sweet tooth. As long as they enticed you with chocolate.
Free candy?
You'd get in that van. Hell, you'd live in that van down by the river if you had to, as long as they kept feeding your sweet tooth. Come back with us. We'll feed all you political junkies exactly what you need. And we got some Ron Johnson sound as well, and maybe even Gary on the phones. I know he's a favorite. 844-967-2789. Everyone that calls from here to the end of this segment jumps Gary in the line.
What are you selling, Mr. Snake Oil?
We love Puerto Rico.
Merchandising! I don't give a rat's behind because I'm moving in. I'm sick and tired of living in a van down by the river!
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer at Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
Milwaukee, join me, Alan Robinson, Wednesday evenings for my new show, Wiz Cannabis Radio. We're setting the record straight on cannabis in Wisconsin. Follow me at Wisco Cannabis and listen live Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. right here on Talk 1017 FM.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. In the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
Hey guys, I'm Maggie Dawn, your lady lawyer, legal eagle, and sensei of economics. Tune into my show, Dawn of the Resistance, live Thursdays and Fridays from 6 to 7 on WRRD 1510 AM. Always streaming live at newstalk1510am.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Talk 101.7 FM and WRD 1510 AM, Wisconsin's political talk.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open 844-967-2789.
Just don't get all butthurt like Gary if we jump you in line. Gary hung up.
Come on, Gary.
Gary!
Must be working hard today.
Yeah, I'm sure he had a service call to get to. Be patient, people. Now, we had Ron Johnson on this fine show the day after he voted to acquit Donald Trump. And we quizzed him specifically about his intent to have investigations of Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's kid.
This was back in February.
This is relevant sound, believe it or not, folks, so we want to share it with you. Bear with us just for a minute, if you would. Here's yours truly, quizzing Ron Johnson in February of 2020 on the Hunter Biden investigations. Cut number one, fancy. Ron Johnson, he voted to acquit the president yesterday. He joins us today. But about an hour after the acquittal vote, Ron, my understanding, you and your colleague Chuck Grassley notified what? Of your intent to open investigations of Hunter Biden. You did that yesterday, Ron. I thought the timing perhaps smacked of partisanship, sir. How do you respond to Crudy's accusation? And people say we're never tough on Ron. Well, let's hear his reply and a few other quick sound bites. Cut number two, if you would, Fancy Brian. Ron responds to Crudy.
First of all, I wasn't in charge of the timing. Wasn't even aware that it was being dropped at that point in time. But this is just part and parcel of ongoing oversight, in my case, dating back to March of 2015, when we really started investigating the whole Hillary Clinton email scandal, which did morph into the whole Russian collusion with the Trump campaign scandal because the same cast of characters, the same FBI abuse of power, and then to a certain extent that has just morphed into this whole situation as well. So we have all kinds of oversight letters. We have all kinds of requests for documents, and we're just keeping on those oversight requests.
A one-paragraph insert from UrbanMilwaukee.com. Bruce Murphy writes today, Wisconsin Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson is among the 39 members of Congress in the Senate and the House of Representatives. That's a 535, Dom. He's one of 39 who is rated with an F, along with 9 other committee heads. He gets the F as a senator for his failure specifically to do oversight through the HISGAT committee. They are way off in terms of oversight. But anyways, very important investigations of Hunter Biden to do. Let's move down the list. Let's play the next cut, if you would, Fancy Brian. You have subpoena power, and there were allegations against the president that he violated campaign finance laws in regards to Stormy Daniels. And you seemed much less curious at that time to do any sort of comprehensive investigation of the alleged campaign finance
Mike,
violations.
I never issued a subpoena under the Obama administration. I was chairman.
But you did have a number of hearings regarding Benghazi.
I had all kinds of questions for the Obama administration on the Clinton email scandal, and I never subpoenaed documents. I never held a show trial with Hillary Clinton. I never dragged her in front of our committee. I actually respect the separation of powers. So again, I'm just tenaciously trying to get the facts. If there was wrongdoing in Ukraine with the DNC working with certain actors, the American public needed to know that. If there was no wrongdoing, they need to know that as well. So again, this just is a continuation of our ongoing oversight.
But of course he does answer the question, Crudy. If you're so concerned about, oversight, why wouldn't you investigate Trump for the Stormy Daniels payoff?
Maybe utilize that subpoena power at your disposal, sir?
Just throwing it out there.
Well, all he did was throw out a conspiracy theory about the DNC server being in the Ukraine, which has been widely debunked, has it not?
Well, then I had to jump in here as well. Just a few more folks. Cut number 4, please, Brian. But if there was probable cause, wouldn't DOJ investigate that?
Not necessarily. I mean, not necessarily.
Again, what exactly? So what?
So
what
again,
is your
from my standpoint, when you're talking about potential wrongdoing in the political realm, the proper order of things ought to be congressional investigations. We ought to, because congressional investigations are about making it public. If there's an evidence of crime, then you refer to the Justice Department. If they have a conflict, then they refer to a special counsel. We've got this completely backwards. As a result, here you are 3 years later, and people don't know what happened.
But Hunter Biden isn't a politician, Senator.
Well, Joe Biden certainly is, and he's on tape. If you want to talk about a quid pro quo, take a look at his tape in front of the Council of Foreign Relations.
Didn't you vote for that very same thing? Didn't you agree with the Senate and the Congress that was a U.S. policy at the time to make sure that particular prosecutor was removed?
That is fake news that I ever signed a letter calling for Shulkin's removal. I never did.
So you disagreed with that policy to remove that prosecutor?
I don't know whether he's corrupt or not. I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. I don't know what happened.
Well, that's why we were asking the question.
Nor does the American public, because the press has been very uncurious about it.
I'm very curious. Does anybody know what the hell is going on?
Which is what got under Trump's skin. I mean, he just goes through this special counsel. He goes through a major investigation. Why isn't anybody asking questions about Biden? That's a kind of a human reaction, isn't it?
Oh, boom! There's your answer, folks. Why isn't anyone asking questions about Biden? Well, of course, Ron Johnson. He's not. No qualms whatsoever, even if this furthers Russian interest, even if he's propagating propaganda, he's all down.
People people have the right to know. But of course, people don't have the right to know if Russia's paying bounties for the murder of American soldiers. We don't have a right to know. That's what he told us last time he came on. But in this case, apparently, we have the right to know.
Was that all the Rojo song?
I just repeated the main part, number 5, just one more time for accentuant's sake.
He goes through a major investigation. Why isn't anybody asking questions about Biden? That's a kind of a human reaction, isn't it?
Yeah, Putin keeps asking Trump, why is no one asking questions about Biden? Let's go to Profane Ronnie. Maybe she knows the answer.
Hey, Ronnie.
Welcome back, Ronnie. What do you got for us?
Hey guys, I was just thinking about these protesters and the secret police that Trump has out there. If they are allegedly authorized to protect federal institutions, federal buildings across the country, how about if the protesters, which I understand this is just like a 1 to 3 block area that they're in, how about if they just move their protest, 2 blocks away, in front of
It won't
City
be that
Hall,
easy, Ronnie. They will be confined by chain link and gates. And I would say if Trump does send troops, he's going to station those troops in front of the federal courthouse. And I suspect the protesters will come to the federales.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking if we want them out of the state, everybody can protest all they want at a county place or a city place. And just stay away from the federal locations. And therefore, guess what? You have no purpose to be here.
Right, but Ronnie, I mean, and thank you for the call. We got to get going here. But of course, the people have the right to protest any damn where they like to, just because if it's federal or not. If we're outside the federal courthouse and we're assembling and addressing our grievances and using our First Amendment rights, what right does the federal government or any government have to come and throw our asses in the back of unmarked vans because they don't like us?
Dominic, don't have another Republican administration have your ass arrested. Come back. More Devils. The happy hour starts right now.
having this all come out into public has exposed things that didn't need to be exposed.
What would you say you do here?
I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer, Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of The Santita Jackson Show. Every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, say hello somebody and join Sanders campaign co-chair, former state senator Nina Turner on The Santita Jackson Show on 101.7 FM.
You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com.
Trump on COVID, offering help. I'm Ann Cates. President Trump says the coronavirus outbreak in the U.S. is likely to get worse before it gets better.
My administration will stop at nothing to save lives and shield the vulnerable, which is so important. We've learned so much about this disease, and we know who the vulnerable are, and we are going to indeed shield them. And again, the vaccines are coming, and they're coming a lot sooner than anyone thought possible, by years.
The death toll from COVID-19 has topped 141,000. Senate Republicans are being urged to extend financial assistance to state and local jurisdictions in their coronavirus stimulus measure.
House Democratic Caucus Chairman Hakeem Jeffries says the Senate GOP bill must include aid to state and local governments.
States across America have been hit incredibly hard. Their budgets have been decimated.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell won't commit to that aid, but he does say,
we want another round of direct payments to help American families keep driving our national comeback.
House leaders also say the Senate bill must extend those expanded unemployment benefits through at least the end of this year. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
President Trump has blocked illegal immigrants from being tallied when it comes to redrawing congressional districts.
Going back to his political playbook, President Trump has signed an executive order that would prohibit the U.S. Census from counting illegal aliens this year. He writes in a statement that including undocumented persons, quote, is all part of a broad left-wing effort to erode the rights of Americans' citizens, and I will not stand for it, end quote. Previously, the census counted persons here illegally, and the Supreme Court prevented a citizenship question from being included on census forms. This executive order is facing legal challenges. Bob Costantini, the White House.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed 160 points. The Nasdaq fell 87. I'm Ann Cates.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Walton, Chair of the Milwaukee County Democratic Party. I'm here today to encourage you to sign up for an absentee ballot at myvote.wi.gov. An absentee ballot is the quickest, safest way we can encourage everyone to come out and vote in these upcoming elections. Make sure you sign your affidavit envelope and have a witness sign as well. The August 11th election is a partisan primary. You can only vote for one party. Go to myvote.wi.gov. This message is paid for by the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County.
Milwaukee is a great city with a great history and great architecture. You can take in Milwaukee's history and architecture while you partake in the delicious Wisconsin craft beer at Regano's Roman Coin. The Roman Coin features weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, pinball, a pool table, a jukebox, and a great selection of craft beers. The Roman Coin is also pet-friendly to appeal to the canine crowd, and you can order it from several nearby restaurants. Regano's Roman Coin, 1004 East Brady Street on Milwaukee's east side.
Have you gained the Lockdown 15 during the ongoing COVID-19 crisis?
Americans are heading back to clothing stores with a new size as they either turned to stress eating or stepped up the exercise out of boredom during the pandemic lockdowns. Clothing manufacturers are taking note. So are body measuring technology companies, which report that shoppers are changing their measurements in their online profiles. The trend could be good for clothing companies since new sizes mean that customers' wardrobes need to be updated. But they also face some pain with an increase in costly returns as shoppers try to figure out what their new size happens to be. I'm Bill Michaels.
Singer, songwriter, activist, and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member Joan Baez is this year's recipient of the Woody Guthrie Prize, an award that recognizes artists who speak out for the less fortunate. Baez will be honored with a virtual ceremony on August 16th. I'm Ann Cates.
Milwaukee, tune in from 11 to 2 on Talk 101.7 FM for the Tom Hartman program. Join the show's conversation because our democracy is not a spectator sport. Listen live Monday through Friday right here on Talk 101.7 FM, Wisconsin's political talk network.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
The Devil's Advocates are live weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
You guys are getting it done.
You boys are the light of my day, and I've been listening to you for many years.
I love you guys. You're the greatest thing that has happened to Wisconsin radio.
If it wasn't for your radio program and getting out the vote, who knows?
I got to give you guys so many props.
I'm pretty sure your guys' radio station had a direct impact on that.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you.
For 101.7 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gosted with your headlines. The 5 largest school districts in the state are pushing for virtual reopenings of schools this fall. Unions from Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, Racine, and Kenosha issued a joint statement asking for strong and immediate action from Governor Evers and the Wisconsin legislature, Wisconsin Department of Health Secretary Andrea Palm, and Wisconsin State Superintendent Dr. Carolyn Stanford Taylor. Citing the CDC's cautioning that full reopening would be the highest risk and that with, quote, no effective containment of Wisconsin COVID-19 cases, a virtual reopening is necessary, end quote. Meanwhile, parents of private school students held a counter-protest demanding schools be allowed to reopen for in-person teaching. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We are sliding into the Taco Tuesday happy hour.
Woohoo!
But Dom, some sad news to report. Gary won't be joining us this hour.
What'd you do?
Gary has signed off. He's punishing us. He's giving us the silent treatment. Apparently, he's not going to listen.
Here's a quote from Gary. Tell Mike he won't have to keep bumping me anymore. Anyone. I have a job and for a while don't have time to play games with you guys. I'm turning you guys off. He can't play games with us anymore.
Oh, no.
Well, then he apparently won't hear me when I call him a little whiny, bitchy snowflake. Come on, Gary. You know, this occasionally is a show about nothing, Dom. We just have characters that pass in and out of our life each afternoon between 3 and 6. And Gary's one of these characters. He's our Newman. You know, not in the postal delivery fashion. That's Profane Ronnie. She is literally our mail person. Not that brings our mail, but our favored. But Gary is sort of the Newman character, the foil to all things progressive and good.
That's a shame. And what? And so now it's going to be Seinfeld without Newman? I mean, he was always a bit part anyway. So, but, you know, it's always fun to, you know, rip on him a little bit.
Well, at least we still got you, Kramer. wanted to play something, and we'll get back to our wonderful audience at 844-967-2789. Now, they called this the Lincoln Project, the never-Trumper sort of Republican sorts. They called this Trumpfeld. And Trump famously went on Chris Wallace on the Foxy News the other day and didn't fare well, let's just say.
I did not think that Trump did a great job.
A disastrous interview, some might say. And I've noted on the show, Dom, you are something of a walking human laugh track. And I appreciate you. You have an infectious laugh. You are a wonderful accompaniment at any comedy club.
I am easily entertained.
Yes, you are. And when you're gone, man, I absolutely miss you in your absence. And the audience misses you as well. Because I have no sense of whether or not I'm funny. If you don't laugh, it seems less funny to me. Could be hilarious.
Or not.
But if I don't hear Tom,
then you don't know.
Then I don't know for sure. I find this somewhat funny. They have recast this Chris Wallace, Donald Trump interview as something of a interview about nothing. Trumpfeld, if you would. Fancy Brian, play it for the people. Cut number 5.
To the best of my knowledge, we're sitting at the White House.
I must tell you.
No, I'm just telling you. And the Oval Office is right behind me.
Fox News has a new poll out today. Joe Biden leads you by 8 points, 49% to 41.
First of all, I'm not losing.
People trust Biden more to handle the coronavirus by 17 points, on race relations by 21 points.
Those are fake polls.
You still have more than 100 days to this election, but at this point, you're losing.
Not on my watch. It's not going to happen on my watch. I have other polls that put me leading. I have a poll where we're leading in every swing state.
If I may, sir, respectfully, in the Fox poll, they asked people who is more competent, whose mind is sounder.
Yes.
Biden beats you in that.
Let's take a test. Let's go down. Joe and I will take a test. Let him take the same test that I took.
Incidentally, I took the test too when I heard that you passed it. Well, it's not the hardest test.
Nobody's done what I've done.
It's a picture and it says what's that, and it's an elephant.
No. See, that's all misrepresentation. Yes, the first few questions are easy, but I'll bet you couldn't even answer the last 5 questions. I'll bet you couldn't. They get very hard, the last 5 questions.
Well, one of them was count back from 100 by 7.
And let me tell you, you couldn't answer.
All right, what's the question?
Many of the questions. I'll get you the test. I'd like to give it. But I guarantee you that Joe Biden could not answer those questions.
Okay.
Don't you believe America deserves a president who doesn't brag he can spot an elephant? The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
They called that one Trumpfeld.
Wow.
I liked it.
That's it.
You
that
don't
is.
even know what a write-off is.
That is entertaining, and it's unfortunate. As amusing as it is, it's also that sad, because this is our reality. This is President Trump, and that was we didn't do a whole lot of that sound. I guess that would have been yesterday, but it was terrible. I mean, Trump is just
deserved a laugh track.
It certainly made it a little more entertaining versus uncomfortable and want to claw my eyeballs out. I mean,
that's
give me the chart. Give me the. I mean, he's just looking around like he's looking for the right answer.
Flailing, one might say,
and does not provide the answer. Oh, Joe Biden wants to defund the police. No, Joe Biden doesn't want to defund the police. Did he say that? Chris Wallace, did he say defund the police? He said defund the police. No, actually, he didn't. It's not anywhere in the Bernie Sanders-Joe Biden agreement.
You know why Trump wants to do the coronavirus task force meetings again? He feels like America needs more Trump. That's why he's falling in the polls. They have been missing them. Some Trump. It's like if Jerry was off sick from Seinfeld. You just wouldn't watch. Best ofs. They just don't capture the same imagination.
Right. Yeah.
He's the ratings machine.
Come on. You're going to tell me you actually think that Trump thinks that the reason he's down right now is not because of all the other things. It's just because he hasn't been on television enough?
Well, there is an acknowledgement in some way, shape, or form. The fact that Trump's tweeted out a picture, even if he called himself your favorite president, tweeted out a picture of himself in a mask. And today at the press conference, he told people wear a mask and it's going to get worse before it gets better. much like this Trump presidency. Every day has got just a little worse.
Was the best day of Trump's presidency the first day?
The inauguration. It was probably the funnest day for you and I because we walked out in the middle of the inauguration, and then we went to a bar and had a lot of fun.
And it's been downhill ever since for this country and this administration.
Yes, but tremendous for the ratings of this fine program. We are a ratings machine.
Come on, we could find something else to talk about. People always ask, well, how's it going? Oh, the news. Oh, there's always something to talk about, isn't there? Well, yeah, I guess, but I would rather work a little harder to come up with, good stories than, narrating the decline of Western civilization. I'm just saying.
Come on, Dom. You expect the audience to believe that you seek to work a little harder.
I would sacrifice a little more work for a little less Trump.
Come on. Everybody knows that's malarkey. 844-967.
At some point, Trump's just going to disappear. He's going to disappear.
2789. Matt from Johnson's Creek. Welcome, Matt. What do you got for us?
Hello, Matt.
Hey, guys. My apologies if this was brought up in the 4 o'clock hour, but has anybody noticed that it's weird that of all these cities that Trump wants to engage in this law and order, take down, tough man act and stomp all over the Constitution, that there are cities with, that are having problems, but he also specifically mentioned Milwaukee, which I don't see as having as big a problem. And to put a conspiracy behind it, you got to wonder if he's not going to time his little green men descending on Milwaukee to coincide from about 3 weeks from now and get out there and see what they can instigate and try to say that the Democratic Party, the whole convention and everything is a mess and these are the type of people and on and on and on, or even something more, nefarious.
Well, that's almost entirely what yesterday's show was about, Matt. So where were you? Because that's exactly my opinion. I appreciate your opinion because you share my opinion.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it, man.
You can always tell who skipped yesterday's class, can't you?
844-967-2789. And let us not forget, if we're going to learn, and we've talked about this often, if you want to see what's going to happen in this country in the future, just look at what has happened in the state of Wisconsin in the near past. And we have on tape, thanks to Ian Murphy, who pretended to be one of the Koch brothers when he called up Scott Walker, pretending to be a big donor. And
different sort of Koch than the guy that called us prior.
Right, Koch. And literally asked Scott Walker at the time, because this was, during the protest or after the protest at the Wisconsin Capitol, hey, did you ever think about planning some troublemakers in the crowd? And Scott Walker said, yes, they had.
His greatest fear was what? He'd be found out. That it might reflect badly upon him.
And of course, now then when Scott Walker wrote his very unintimidated book.
Mark Thiessen wrote that book, but please continue.
He admits, or at least says, that he didn't really plan on putting protesters in the crowd, but he had made it seem to the fake Koch brother that he did. So he was lying to his donors, essentially. But ultimately...
Well, he's trying to suck up to a billionaire. That's in his nature.
Well, that's the whole point. If you're a conservative, is sucking up to a billionaire worth either honestly actually putting troublemakers into a crowd to cause trouble, not the good trouble, bad trouble, to create chaos? That's something that, number one, you actually did, or number two, you think will endear you to the billionaire's line of thinking and perhaps open up the checkbook. Either way, what you're saying that this kind of fascist behavior is what the billionaires want, or you're willing to engage in that behavior for some money. Walker already did it. I guarantee you Trump will do it.
Well, it'd make a hell of a distraction from Trump's response to coronavirus. And let's not forget, Scott Walker, despite his early opposition to the rise of Trump, left the field so a true conservative could come in and beat Trump. But, he's on the Trump train. He is the engineer here in the state of Wisconsin. And, quite frankly...
Isn't he on the campaign committee or something?
He heads the campaign committee.
Have you seen Scott Walker anywhere saying anything about Trump coming to town? I mean, was he around when The VP came in. I mean, where's Scott Walker in that regard?
Had to wash his hair. Very busy. Rinse and repeat. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, more of your phone calls. 844-967-2789.
We're going to win because we did so well. Because it was so overwhelming, the thing that we did.
And yada, yada, yada.
You're going to be dead.
Serenity now! Serenity now!
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer at Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
Don't send in those absentee ballots just yet. Talk 1017 FM is broadcasting forums for you to hear all about candidates running to represent Milwaukee. Thursday, August 6th, meet the candidates running to represent Assembly District 17, previously held by Representative David Crowley. Tune in Friday, August 7th to hear from the candidates running for the 8th Assembly District, Representative Joe Casas-Amaripa's previous seat. Both nights, the forums will be broadcasted from 7 to 8 p.m. exclusively on Talk 1017 FM, always streaming at Talk1017FM.com.
Hi, this is Becky from Bounce Milwaukee. We aren't open for play right now, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy your favorite pizzas, drinks, and our famous chocolate chip cookies. We're open for carry-out and delivery Wednesday through Sunday, 4 to 11 p.m. When you order, you can also add on a pay-it-forward pizza, which will help feed families in need throughout our community, as well as provide fuel for Milwaukee's social justice protesters. You can place your own order for takeout or delivery, or send a pay-it-forward pizza to the community by visiting bouncemilwaukee.com.
Eric Holder, he's the former U.S. Attorney General and current chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee.
The notion that Scott Walker is saying that we are doing something to push partisan gerrymandering, that is the pot calling the kettle total black. I mean, that's absurd. He is one of the architects of among the most gerrymandered states in the Union. All we're pushing for is a fair process come 2021.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. Supplying your political fix in the back roads from Horicon to McGuanago on WRRD 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Political Talk.
The Devil's Advocates. We drink when we toast when we drink.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It is the happy hour, and we are happy to continue to take your phone calls at 844-967-2789. Let's get back to them. Annie from Watertown, you are next. Thank you for calling today, Annie. What do you got for us?
I don't know. I guess I listened to too much radio today. I've been pounding my head against the wall.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna need one of those competency tests.
Hey, the good news is, Annie, I hear they're really easy.
Yeah.
Annie, try counting backwards from 100 by sevens.
Is that like how we're going backward?
Ah, nice. Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like more than 7. What's on your mind today, Annie?
Well, he interfered my thoughts with all this Ron Johnson stuff. Like, isn't he like the head of the Intel Committee? And he's like, I didn't hear anything about that. And then they didn't find anything about Hillary Clinton and whoever else he's investigating because there wasn't anything.
No, there were all sorts of investigations of Benghazi and Hillary's emails. Certainly, she was scrutinized in her role as Secretary of State, and of course, a presumptive Democratic nominee. That was the real reason Ron went after her. You know, why not go for a double dip and come back after Joe Biden or Biden's kid? Anything to besmirch Trump's opponent. You know, it's all fair and fun in politics.
Well, hell, Annie, some Russian-backed hacks in the Ukraine apparently have some things to say about the DNC server and Hunter Biden. So, I mean, it makes total sense that Ron would investigate.
Maybe Ron believes it. Maybe Rudy's very compelling.
Well, my paper's newspaper was enough to freak me out. But it's amazing how the attempted assassination of a federal judge with all kinds of connections and influences to our president is sort of down the page a bit. But on the front page of Watertown Daily Times today, there's a picture of the Jefferson County Republican Party, and I'm very, very familiar with the building. I'm very familiar with the sidewalk, and it very much needs replacing. But somebody took yellow paint and wrote Black Lives Matter on it, and the front page caption refers to it as damage.
They damaged what, the sidewalk by painting on it?
Yeah, I guess so. So we're going to have to start going after all these little kids with their chalk.
Well, hell, Annie, we better get some federales in here and make sure they crack down on those kids.
And you're going to get some sort of special assessment in the mail.
Cracking skull time, Annie. We can't have that.
What's it coming to, huh?
Yeah, no doubt.
Appreciate you listening, Annie. 844-967-2789. Next up, Robert from West Dallas. Robert, welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Robert.
Really, the federal agents. Sorry, I missed the class yesterday, but it's just so frustrating to watch this go on in the United States. I feel like I'm in Argentina in the 1970s. Just trampling the Constitution.
If you were in Argentina, you might have the right to travel outside your borders. We're trapped here. I mean, it doesn't matter how bad the COVID gets. We as Americans, we're stuck here even with Donald Trump as the president because he's made it so bad we can't escape.
Yeah, well, they still might throw you in a van without, announcing who they are or what agency they work for. These guys remind me of, those militias that, were down at the border pretending to be law enforcement. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
I really wish, some of these mayors or the governors would call their bluff and bring in the National Guard or local police.
Yep.
And if they go outside their area around these federal buildings, arrest these guys and charge them with a crime. I mean, I see no difference between them and other people that are impersonating law enforcement. And, they come into these communities, and rather than serve the purpose that they say they're there for, it's just a lot of intimidation and escalating violence and tension. And it only seems to be happening in democratic cities.
Weird.
Is really interesting.
Well, because, Robert, that's where, all the crime is those democratic cities.
I would say anywhere where intelligent people live, and primarily it's the cities where you have the big universities, well, they don't vote Republican. Unless you're in Oklahoma. I mean, and even Tulsa, I suspect if you took a poll of the people in Tulsa right now, they would probably prefer the policies of a Democrat towards, let's throw open the economy with a Trump rally. I mean, Republicans are really, really bad at this whole governance thing. And that's why most congruences of people, cities we call them, they elect Democratic leaders.
Yeah, I think the frustrating part, though, is where are all the Second Amendment people and the state rights people? Even the House vote, it was largely, along party lines, and you would think there'd be more people speaking out just because of how incredibly wrong this is.
Well, because, Robert, it's not a truly held belief. It's got an asterisk next to it, and they're only against that fascism, that attitude, if it's brought upon by the left. If it's their guys, they're doing the right thing. Thanks for the call, Robert.
Hey, I want to get this out there quickly. The Political Environment blog, Scott Walker's chutzpah alert, fell under "No one asked you" or "Your opinion counts for nothing." The most reactionary Republican and anti-Milwaukee governor in Wisconsin history. Here's what he tweeted out. The mayor of Milwaukee needs to support his chief of police. The last thing the city needs before the slimmed-down DNC convention focuses on Milwaukee is a leaderless police department. Well, what would you encourage, Scott Walker? Federal agents on the streets of Milwaukee because Tom Barrett can't handle it?
States' rights!
Let's not forget that Barrett ran against Walker a couple times. Might be a little personal history there. Not that Walker ever made it personal. Dividing and conquering, that was just in the days.
It's never personal, Sonny. It's always business.
It's never personal. It's always just politics. More devil's advocates on the other side. More phone calls as well. 844-967-2789.
I got about 50 feet out, and suddenly, the great beast appeared before me. I tell you, he was 10 stories high if he was a foot.
It's tremendously big and tremendously wet.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
MaxInc Radio, this is Rocker. A new book by whose advocates? The devil? What's it called? The studio where it happened? Oh no, Jimmy, they're gonna expose the source of double dipping.
Will Jimmy and Rocker be exposed? Is double dipping even bad? Tune in to MaxInc Radio Saturday and Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m. for local music, interviews, and more.
Rocker, what about the cave?
Hey, Farmer Bill here. You know Aronia berries are really good for you. They have an intense, tangy flavor that will make your smoothies and cereal come alive. You can find fresh, frozen, and Aronia juice concentrate in Madison at Medcalf's, Willie Street Co-op, and Woodman's, and in Milwaukee at Outpost stores. Or you can find us at our website, organicaronia.com, where you can even order bushes for some beautiful edible landscaping. Support your body with Bellbrook Berry Farm's locally, organically grown Aronia berries, and thanks from our crew.
Tune in to Wisconsin's Political Talk on Talk 1017 FM. Weekdays, you can hear the Santita Jackson Show from 6 to 8 a.m. Next, it's the Stephanie Miller Show from 8 to 11. From 11 till 2, the Tom Hartman Program. At 2 o'clock, it's the Earl Ingram Show. From 3 to 6, the Devil's Advocates. At 6, it's Busted Pencils, Wiscannabis Radio, and Maggie Dawn. And at 7, it's Democracy Now! Wisconsin's Political Talk. Listen online at talk1017fm.com.
Milwaukee, join me, Alan Robinson, Wednesday evenings for my new show, Wiz Cannabis Radio. We're setting the record straight on cannabis in Wisconsin. Follow me at Wisco Cannabis and listen live Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. right here on Talk 1017 FM.
Free and equal education is and has always been a cornerstone to this nation. Yet our public school systems, once the envy of the world, has never faced more scrutiny than right now. Caught between political bickering and big business cash grabs, our schools are under attack, and the people that stand to lose the most are our children. Join Dr. Tim Slecker for Busted Pencils Radio, educated educators talking education. Tuesday nights at 7, right here on WRRD 1510 AM, Milwaukee.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
From Port Washington to Oconomowoc, WRD 1510 AM is essential radio to get you through this pandemic.
For 1017 Milwaukee and 92.7 Madison, I'm Keith Gostad with your headlines. So far, the highest profile Republican to publicly say he will attend his party's convention is U.S. Representative Brian Steil. Other Wisconsin Republicans have been less committal about their attendance of the event in Florida, where 14,000 new positive test results were reported on Friday of last week. The 7-day average in Florida is near 12,000 compared to Wisconsin's 800 positive coronavirus tests. The RNC is planning on taking the temperature of attendees and setting up hand sanitizing stations. Highs today in the upper 70s with scattered thunderstorms possible in the late afternoon and evening. Overnight lows in the mid-60s. Wednesday highs around 80 degrees with partly cloudy skies. Thursday highs again near 80 with partly cloudy skies. You are listening to Wisconsin's Political Talk Network.
Wreaking havoc on America, just like they wreaked havoc on Wisconsin. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Seems unlikely we'll be jumping around at any Badger games this fall. They got a hell of a lineup, but COVID-19 here in the state of Wisconsin, headline tells us 1,117 COVID-19 cases. Dominic, that's in the last 24 hours. Health official implores residents to stop gathering. That means stop going to the bar, conservatives. Please. Please. And the DNC event, Dom, and one quick side note. In our district, our school district, I mentioned to you they were going to vote last night on virtual school. And
Yeah. Was that Middleton?
Yes. And virtual school in the fall, it will be for my students, my kids. And also, one other vote of note by the school board, they extended the in-school resource police officer. So the kids are virtual, but the cop will be real.
So the cop will be in an empty school building?
At least initially. I know they're hopeful they'll get the kids back at some
Well,
point.
I mean, whatever the virtual schooling looks like, I hope it allows for the police officer to, pop in on the Zoom screen whenever they damn well please to make sure everything's going all right.
Well, I was thinking something more along the lines of RoboCop, but I got quite an imagination.
Crudy, as you mentioned, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel reporting Madeline Heim, 1,117 new COVID cases Tuesday, a new record. Note, Wisconsin, and the first time the state has exceeded 1,000 cases confirmed in a single day since the beginning of the pandemic. Woohoo! All right! Making America great again. The state also recorded the highest daily count of all its Midwestern neighbors, exceeding Illinois at 955, Minnesota 352, Iowa 512, and my former state, Michigan, at 573. We're smoking them, Crudy.
Well, you're just not looking at it from the correct fashion, Dom. We are apparently Big Ten champions in COVID-19. Quick note, this one at the Journal Sentinel. Bill Glauber published less than an hour ago while we were on the air. I'm going to do it live.
Do it live.
See how I do with my reading alouding. There's nothing virtual about the Milwaukee Police Department's approach to the Democratic National Convention. This week, the agency put out a bid for a significant cache of munitions, including smoke grenades, 40-millimeter Stinger rubber balls, damn, and riot control grenade continuous discharge. It's the kind of equipment few law enforcement uses to quell unruly protest, even though delegates won't be attending what is now primarily a virtual, sad convention. Police have said they are preparing for potential demonstrations. Well, there'll be demonstrations. There'll be protest times. The latest bid for MPD to purchase munitions to be used for the 2020 Democratic National Convention. The bid includes an itemized pricing worksheet. The items listed are representative of those that may be ordered, and their prices will be used for evaluation and award purposes. A request for bid, if you will, Dom. 30 items are listed, including 750 Stinger rubber balls, 2,000 exact impact sponge rounds, 750 impact sponge rounds, and 500 exact impact marking rounds.
That's it?
I bet they all hurt if you get hit with them, Dom. There are also hundreds of grenades listed in a rainbow of colors: white, red, blue, yellow, and green. Another big item, 240-millimeter scat shells used to shoot multiple canisters of chemical agents or smoke. The bidding period closes July 30th with delivery by August 13th, just in time.
Gas delivery system.
For the convention, you better be able to deliver on time. What do arms dealers fill out these bids? Who precisely supplies the less lethal armaments for the Milwaukee Police Department for the DNC?
Crudy, in a separate bid, the MPD is also looking for short-term rental of 110 vehicles. Well, I got a baby blue Cadillac Eldorado convertible.
If only we could get that baby turned over and burnt in the street.
Well, I'm not letting you near that car, Crudy. The city is paying for security for the convention through a $40 million federal grant. Milwaukee police said in an email that the agency remains committed to preparing for a safe, secure, and successful Democratic National Convention. Quote, while the number of delegates attending has decreased, there is no indication there will be less members of the public that will be present in and around the event. The police-related equipment in the approved budget was based on what the Milwaukee Police Department had identified as necessary for such an event. These items were requested by the Milwaukee Police Department back in February and March in order to timely receive them in advance of the DNC. The bid process is controlled by the mayor's purchasing division.
If that is the case, why are they not taking delivery until August 13th, Tom? The DNC was supposed to go off on July 13th. Why wouldn't they already have the
When
bullets?
did the delay come out? When did they finally announce?
They've known that since, the pandemic kicked in,
Which would have been, what?
End of
February,
March.
End of March. So
Sure. Somewhere in that
interesting
time frame.
timing. And of course, listen, and we've had a lengthy discussion about this yesterday. I'm not going to get into it now. But this is being paid for by a $40 million federal grant. And
Our taxpayer dollars at work.
And we were initially back in February assuming still, 50,000 people here. And they're saying, of course they're saying, well, we have no indication that there's going to be any less crowd there because what? We would have to spend, or maybe would spend a little bit less of that money. I mean, what happens to the surplus if they don't have a use for the 240 millimeter scat shells? Well, what happens then? Do they get to keep it?
Dom, you ever had any illegal fireworks you didn't find a use for? I mean, if you got the armaments, you're going to find a use for them, right?
Absolutely.
Someone's going to find a rationale, a reason to use them on the protesters.
Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett said in a statement that the police department is consulting with authorities with expertise to determine what is needed to keep Milwaukee safe during the convention. I am equally, if not more, focused on making sure that law enforcement personnel are well trained and show appropriate restraint, Barrett said. Well, excellent, Tom Barrett. If the federales show up and they start, Jack and Crudy off the side of Brady Street, I'm hoping that those well-trained and appropriate restraining police officers will defend the citizens of this fine city, and even Crudy.
Dominic, I would expect they'll come through the front door with a no-knock warrant, and they'll grab our asses up between 3 and 6, and they will somehow imply we have been inciting these protests.
Yeah?
I think that theoretically,
I incite every American to stand up and use your constitutional rights whenever you damn well see fit, America. If that's what the implication is, I stand guilty.
And that's why the federales will probably come and grab you and grab me and Fancy Brian. Hold door! Hold door!
I'm just going to tell them, hey, yeah, I'll totally hold the door for you. My God. I just want to say they're going to get us for promoting Biden's leftist agenda.
Well, of course.
He's so far left, and he's a radical leftist. I don't know if anyone knows that.
A horse of sorts. Chock full of progressive.
It's going to be all over. He is the
goodness,
Trojan horse.
Unicorns and rainbows. Let's play. We've actually got some Biden sound, and that's unusual. He came out of the basement today.
All right, Joe.
Close to home in Delaware, my understanding. But, why not play a little bit of the alternative to Donald Trump? If you would, Fancy Brian, going to need your help. Talking about late decisions, Joe also hasn't told us who his VP will be.
You got plenty of time.
He should have already announced. They should have already anointed that person at the DNC convention last week. But anyways, here he is talking about it now. Someday we'll know. Cut 60.
I am not committed to naming any but the people I've named, and among them there are 4 black women. So that decision is underway right now.
So they're thinking long and hard. Keep going. Biden cut 61.
It is important that my administration, I promise you, will look like America, both as from vice president to Supreme Court to cabinet positions to every major position in the White House.
That is something I think that Joe Biden could do that would have some substantial impact. I mean, when you look at Trump's Mnuchin and all these corrupt bastards all around him that are filling out the government, from cabinet secretary, Betsy DeVos, all the way down to federal troops on the ground. And Joe Biden can say, okay, you don't like me? You don't like Uncle Joe? Well, let me show you my cabinet. Look at these very talented people that actually believe in governance. So I think Joe, after he gets around to telling us who the VP should be, might want to give us a few of his preferred cabinet secretaries.
You're going to have some rich people in charge of the Treasury. I don't want any poor people in charge of the Treasury. I'm just saying, I want a rich person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, rich people. They're just better than
They're
us.
better than the rest of us, of course. I mean, they have more money.
Okay, here's Biden on the economy and Donald Trump because, to his opinion, Trump doesn't give a damn about this economy. Play it for the people, cut 62.
It's been reported by the president's staff that the president is, quote, not really working this anymore. He doesn't want to be distracted by it. Doesn't want to be distracted by it. His own staff admits that Donald Trump fails the most important test of being an American president, the duty to care.
He didn't know governance would be so hard.
A lot of people, nobody knew. Nobody knew.
More of Joe Biden, Democratic nominee, in waiting, cut number 63.
This man simply doesn't understand. He can't deal with our economic crisis without serving and saving and solving the public health crisis. For all his bluster about his expertise on the economy, he's unable to explain how it will actually help working families hit the hardest.
Actually, that's a great point, and people have continued to make it, and I'm glad Joe was bringing that up. I mean, any sense of getting the economy back, and hell, any normalcy back, getting schools back, however you defined life for you before this, will not go back, or we should probably never go back in some circumstances, but will not go back to what you perceive to be normal until we have this virus under control. I mean, that was the concern that this administration had for the economy over everything else is what paused the implementation of stay-at-home and is what forced people out before any of the states met their own health department's criteria for reopening the economy. We are a victim of our own stupidity, led by the goof in chief.
No, you're actually saying Donald Trump is absolutely correct when he says it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Let's hear more from Biden, cut number 64.
He's quit on you, and he's quit on this country. But this election is not just about him. It's about us. It's about you. It's about what we'll do, what a president's supposed to do. The president's supposed to care.
Who's got time for caring? Cut 65, the older Americans, please.
Think of expanded vital services like rides to appointments, meals, day programs for seniors, making their homes safer for them. It builds on an innovative and creative provision under the Affordable Care Act, the very program the president ceaselessly is trying to gut.
Let's go on. Joe Biden talked about
eating, very overrated. You poor people, you don't need to eat.
Child care, cut 66.
My child care plan is straightforward. Every 3- and 4-year-old child will get access to free, high-quality preschool like students have here.
30.
Low and middle-income families won't spend more than 7% of their income on child care for children under the age of 5.
Joe Biden speaking about the economy pushing back on President Trump, who said today, as Grudy mentioned, it's going to get worse before it gets better. It gets better with you on the phones. Coming back, last segment of the day, 844-967-2789. We'll be right back.
This is America.
This was treason.
Grow up, Donald.
If you're not happy here, you can leave.
Get your words straight, Jack.
I know words. I have the best words.
You're full of
I am the chosen one.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
I know you are, but what am I?
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer at Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, The Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
Hi, I'm Tom Newhouse, the Piano Man, and I want to rebuild your darn piano at Newhouse Piano Workshop. I can turn Grandma's old piano into a beautiful family heirloom. Heck, I can even turn it into a modern player piano. So Google Pianos Milwaukee and click on newhousepianoworkshop.com to check out how I can rebuild your old piano and turn it into a beautiful family heirloom. Call or text me at 262-302-1965 to schedule an appointment with me, Tom Newhouse, the Piano Man.
Do you need a better resume to help you find a new job? Or are you looking to polish your resume for that next move up? COVID-19 has made the job search landscape much more competitive. I'm Linda, a certified resume writer at Aberlin Resume and Career Services, LLC, and I can help you with this. Call me at 414-412-6072. Until August 30th, we're giving a 10% discount to anyone who permanently lost their job due to COVID-19.
I got the question, and it's 35
Even you,
seconds.
Scott Walker.
All right, well, what does your church tell you about when people say that they're the second coming of God? My reason tells me the man is certifiable. I want your opinion, Gary.
I would say anybody who comes back and says that, I would say he would be the Antichrist.
I am the chosen one.
So Trump is the Antichrist, then, Gary, by that logic?
No, I'm not saying he is, but I'm
But
saying
he
he's got
said
a-
he's the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Gary, by your biblical logic, Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
Listen to The Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. From Bernie to Biden to Trump supporters, Talk 1017 FM has the political fix for every Wisconsinite, always streaming Essential Radio at talk1017fm.com.
%60 of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It's the happy hour. It is the last segment of the day, the last opportunity for you to call up and tell Crudy why he is wrong at 844-967-2789. Before you do so, and be patient, callers, we'll get to you in just a moment. Trump speaking today. Ghislaine Maxwell.
It was a hell of a show. We watched maybe 4 or 5 minutes during the commercial break.
The article on the Raw story, entitled "White House Officials Must Be Tearing Out Their Hair Over Trump's Ghislaine Maxwell Remarks," says CNN Acosta. Well, we have the sound, but here's what Acosta had to say.
Epstein's what? She went out on behalf of Epstein and rounded up teenage girls for his criminal misuse.
Has the president been wishing her well before? Asked anchor Jim Acosta. I don't believe so, said Acosta. I have to imagine, Wolf, that there are White House officials behind the scenes who are just tearing their hair out, when they heard the president say that. Here's a situation where there are only a few months left in this campaign. He's asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, who's the accused sex trafficker at this point, an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we've all seen the video of Trump dancing with Epstein. The disgraced, financier who was obviously no longer alive committed suicide, and the president is wishing Maxwell well. This is going to just set the hair on fire of the White House officials. They definitely don't want to hear the president asked about those sorts of things, and those are the distractions that White House officials are worried about when he goes out there and holds these sorts of news conferences. That particular soundbite is going to play over and over again. He should have taken the news conference back on track and put it back on track of the coronavirus. Well, we have it. If you would please, Fancy Brian, thank you for the hard work. Play it for the people.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
Like you?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
I wish her well.
But I was a big fan of the teenage girls he had over.
And, I used to run into her in Palm Beach all the time. Really? Well, how many times? What times? Who were you with? What was the circumstances? Were you on the airplane? I mean, he's just, what?
He cannot wait to debate Joe Biden because he's going to crush Joe for all his perceived weakness.
I wish those sex traffickers well. That's the president of the United States, Republicans. Great job, everybody.
Well, he always told you he was something of a cheerleader. 844-967-2789. Andy from Beaver Dam. Welcome back, Andy. What do you got for us?
Well, Crudy, if it were as easy for us to get rid of Trump as the cancellation of The Apprentice, I'd be overjoyed. I hope this guy goes quietly. I don't know. This guy has really gone right off the hook,
Andy, I'm not. Here's my concern. It's going to be a much less than clean election process. We're not going to have the results in real time. It's not going to be 10 o'clock on election night and all the votes are counted. We're going to have lots and lots of late tabulations because of mail-in votes and absentee ballots that aren't counted until election day. And it's going to give lots of fodder for lawsuits. The Republicans, they've already got the lawsuits ready to roll out. And they're going to contest it like Bush v. Gore, but it could be on 5 or 6 different state fronts because I don't think Trump can realistically win this election. The only thing he can do is undermine the legitimacy of this election. And then I know our pal Tom Hartman, progressive talker, thinks he wants to cast it to the House of Representatives where each state has one vote. And because there are more Republican states, if he can delegitimize the actual election and the House of Representatives gets to pick the president, he will be effectively reelected. That's about his only path to victory. It's a scary one.
I can't fathom that, man. Cheapers.
Well, yeah, you can. I just told you exactly how it would work, Andy.
Well, come on. I mean, anything's possible, Andy. But, I mean, if it's a blowout, the Republicans are going to tell him to leave, Andy. I don't see how that happens.
All right. Let's hope this anarchy will end soon. Take her cool, guys.
All right, keep her
Thanks,
cool, Andy. Well, the anarchists are all in Portland, man. That's what Trump's trying to do is get rid of the anarchists.
Let me bring you back to the pandemic primary here in the state of Wisconsin. Ended on April 7th. And we anointed Karofsky the justice in waiting on April 7th, right? No.
Yeah. No? When was it? How long
it was
did it
like a week later. Remember?
Not really, but okay.
Late lawsuit. And they did not set aside election day, but the counting of the elections took a week later. Remember, we did the results show like a week later.
Yep, I remember.
Okay, how many states without final tallies on election night before it just blows up the whole electoral map? And we do not know for days, maybe weeks, who the president of the United States is. Only one guy, he's still in the White House. And until you can prove otherwise,
why do you
he's
think,
got a lot of powers at his disposal.
I mean, the ballots will get counted. Why do you think it would be weeks?
Because of potential lawsuits. The final results of different states. Look at this primary in Kentucky, McGrath and Booker. I mean, it took well over a week before we even found out who won a Democratic primary.
But that was a very tight race, man.
And the presidential race wasn't tight in the state of Wisconsin with 23,000 votes, or Michigan with like 50,000 or 70,000 votes.
But when did Wisconsin come down? I was with you that night, man. We did
about 10:30
that
night.
It came down that night with 23,000 votes separation. I mean, but what?
But not with a massive number of absentee ballots in the mix, and not without open lawsuits to be decided, because the Republicans throw everything they possibly can at the wall, maybe the state courts, the federal courts, because all you got to do is delay the outcome long enough to delegitimize the outcome of the election, and Trump's trying to cast it into the House of Representatives. That would be his goal. So the longer the unknown outcome takes,
delay
the
does
better
not
for him.
automatically mean delegitimization.
Yeah, tell that to Al Gore.
The Karofsky was delayed a week for was that delegitimized? Was it legitimate?
No, not with 163,000 vote differential.
Right.
But what if the differential wasn't known for days or weeks and it was modest, let's say 20,000 votes? Thank you, Ed Fallone, for appearing on the show. Well, it could delay things for weeks. Could be a disastrous update for the state of Wisconsin. Thank God we would be here to get you through it. Have a great night. Thank you for listening. Dr. Tim Slecker, Busted Pencils, Educated Educators Talking Education, coming next.
We will find you. We will arrest you. We will jail you. We will throw you the hell out of the country.
The Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire.
But other than that, I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas.
For democracy to work, organized labor must be part of the process. This is Tom Bennett, Secretary-Treasurer at Teamsters Local 200 here in Milwaukee. Beginning on August 17th, the Milwaukee DNC 2020 Convention across America shall motivate, mobilize, and make our voices as a voice of leadership and reason. Make your voice heard. Join the Teamsters. Please visit TeamstersLocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200.
We know small businesses are navigating uncharted waters right now due to the lasting effects of COVID-19 and social unrest. As an independent radio network, we want to support our community. So Talk 1017 FM is announcing Pay It Forward grants to provide advertising to small businesses and help them get back on their feet. To nominate your small business for a Pay It Forward grant with Talk 1017 FM, give us a call at 608-819-8255 or go to talk1017fm.com. Let's get through this, everyone. You are listening to WRRD Waukesha and W269DL Milwaukee, always streaming at talk1017fm.com. Hey man, you're here.
COVID, mask studies. I'm Ann Cates. President Trump is now asking Americans to wear face coverings and take other basic precautions as a way to slow the spread of the coronavirus.
Use masks, socially distance, and employ vigorous hygiene. Wash your hands every chance you get while sheltering high-risk populations. We are imploring young Americans to avoid packed bars and other crowded indoor gatherings. Be safe and be smart.
Brigham Young University has found masks do offer protection from COVID-19.
Ecology professor Ben Abbott calls the consensus striking. He and his students studied 130 studies concerning the effectiveness of face coverings, and they all agree that they indeed are effective in containing the spread of COVID-19. Abbott says the problem with masks is misinformation being spread on social media. Social media posts, for instance, claim mask studies show that wearing them decrease oxygen and increase carbon dioxide. Abbott says not one single study cites any of that.
Hey, Tim's guest, how are you doing? I am well. I'm not getting you on my headphones, though. Here, hold on a second. How are you? I'm well. I'm not getting you on my